You mentioned the Circuit of the South. Absolutely one of my favorite tracks. I've got the cap here ready to support for this weekend, and I'm eager to see how the drivers are going to do tonight, especially with a forecast of rain apparently in the air. So it's going to be an even more fantastic race. I'm looking forward to see how the drivers are going to cope tonight.
It's always an incredible one to be here, and a massive welcome to you all once again. Busy messing around with audios that. But Cameron Bastos joining me as the world's fastest Tabasco source around the beautiful circuit of Le South, where Le Mans going to be an iconic one. But with that being said, instead of looking at our pretty faces, because I know this is just this is Halloween at its finest. Chucky gets nightmares from us. Let's head down to the track with your track guide from our resident stick. Yeah, with Cameron Bastos.
Welcome to the Circuit de la South, one of the most iconic and unforgiving racetracks in motorsport. We're on board the number 50 Ferrari 499P, the car that won the Le Mans in 2024 and as well as 2023. And today we're going to take you on a full speed lap ahead of round 3 of the Raceface.Pro Le Mans Ultimate Championship. It's Le Mans week, both in real world and here in the sim. Let's go for a ride.
Le Mans being one of the biggest circuits on our calendar is going to be an interesting one to deal with, where competitors are going to have to see how much are they willing to push. That being said, life gets a bit tricky. Cam, over to you.
Yeah, we exit the 4 chicane and charge down the long starts finish straight. This is your chance to take a breath, but not for long. As we head uphill, the track flows into a fast sweeping Dunlop curve. Just enough grip here to stay flat out or near flat depending on the setup. Then it's heavy braking for the Dunlop chicane. You need precision here. Clip the first curb, settle the car and watch the exit. It's easy to lose rear grip here. And then into the S's now. Light on the wheel, smooth on the throttle. The car dances left to right. It's all about the flow. And now it's set up wide for one of the most important corners of the lap. Tete Rouge. Hug the inside, watch your traction and watch for a track cut. And get on the power as early as you dare. Because what comes next is all about top speed. As we welcome to the Mulsanne Straight. This is where you let the car stretch its leg. The Ferrari 499P hitting a top gear here, around 330 kilometers an hour, give or take. Before 1990, this stretch had no chicanes and it's just flat out all the way to Mulsanne corner. Back then, cars were pushing over 400 kilometers an hour. It was fast and it was dangerous. These days, we got 2 chicanes, breaking it up, and it's all in the fastest bit of the racetrack anywhere in the world. We're in hyper deployment now, and as we brake late and firm into the first chicane, watch those curbs and then we'll bite. Then it's back on the throttle, a short burst, and then again, it will be a heavy braking as we head into the second chicane. However, on this piece of track, you have to be careful with the hypercar as you don't want the car to bottom out. Keep it straight on either left or right side as you don't want to lose any top speed, where the GT3s are able to hug straight in the middle. Then it's braking into the second chicane. It's tight, and if you cut too much here, you'll eat a penalty. So be very careful on exit of the second chicane. Now it's back at full speed as we approach a Mulsanne corner, one of the biggest stops on the lap. You will have to brake hard here and want to rotate the car while keeping the rear in check. It's quite easy to lock up here, especially as it's a bit of a sweeping right-hand corner. Then you'll have to exit cleanly. There's grip on the outer edge, but not much room for any mistakes, as the rear will step out if you go onto any form of the gravel there. Then it's a long charge down into the Indianapolis corner, or as Stephen would call it, Fuddy Duddy, as he struggles to normally memorize the corner there. It's one of the coolest corners of Le Mans for me personally, and it will take a lot of skill for the drivers not to make any mistakes there. It will be a small kink to the right, which requires big commitment. You will lift or brake just a touch and turn in hard right at the grip all the way, and it's a high-speed bravery. And then boom, immediate stop for Anage. It is the slowest tight corner of 90 degrees. You got to be patient here when it comes to throttle. Miss the apex and you're either running wide or light up the rears. A clean exit is key. Now, this is where the lap earns its reputation. The Porsche curves. Fast, flowing, zero margin for error as you take an onboard look at what the driver does. No runoff, no time to think, just react. Every apex matters here. Stay tight, stay committed. It's physical, mental, and punishing if you get it wrong as you run up right up close to the outer wall as you exit the first part of Porsche. Then, as you exit is a quick flick into the Corvette corner, short and sharp. Get that nose turned in and aim for a stable exit, because here comes the final test. The Ford chicane. As you approach the Ford chicane, it's big braking zone. You have to be aggressive with the curbs, as the curbs are just as aggressive. Too much speed and you'll overshoot. Not enough and you'll leave time on the table. It's a tight squeeze, but get through cleanly and you're flat out again, heading for the line. And that is a lap of the Circuit de la Sarthe in the number 15 Ferrari 409P. This track tests everything. Every raw speed on straights, precision on the corners, and nerve in the fast stuff. Is fast and flowing, is completely unforgiving. And that's what makes it so special. Now, who's got what it takes? Who will be the champion? And who will Le Mans choose to victor around this amazing lap? Le Mans is waiting.
Thank you very much, Cameron the Bastos, giving us a bit of insight to the beautiful circuit of Le Mans. Gotta say, quite excited about this, Cam. And taking a look at our points, standings with our hypercars. Crystals with 45 points. Johan Kleinans running with 43 points. Devot Nell, 30 points. Jeffrey Leroux, 22 points. Lionel Clues sitting with 18 points. Mark Jens van Rensburg with 12 points. Jean Faviers with 10 points. And he's actually tied it up with Jose Manuel McQuill Ginner, who's also got 10 points. Jody Seidman with 8, and Doran Fergus sitting with 4 points. So very close after the running stands. And I mean, this is getting into some very, very treacherous territory for a lot of our drivers. And take us through what our GT3s look like, Cam.
As for our GT3s, the battle is just as heated up there also. With the likes of Brandon Kruger leading with 50 points, but halfway back, Johan Blichnet with 26 points, and Daniel de Villiers sneaking in with the fourth there in third with 22 points. Mac Roth in fourth, followed by Bernard Barkhuizen, hoping to forget the unfortunately horrible race he had at Bahrain as he sits in fifth with 16 points. In the bottom half, we have Aiden Russell, followed by Julian Brains, Jason Farmer, Anton Lammers, and then coming in 10th is Jermaine Valatham and 3 points. The battle on both classes are still incredibly close, even though it looks like Brandon Kruger might be running away, but anything can happen, as we have seen at Bahrain.
That being said, we're going to take a look over to the circuit as they make their first laps known here at the beautiful Circuit de la Sarthe. Many of the drivers trying to still get to grips with this very difficult circuit. I've got to say, this is either a track that makes or breaks you. And for many drivers that aren't used to the ebbs and flows of Circuit de la Sarthe, the undulations, the change of cambers, what in a car do you need to do to set up to ensure that you're in for victory here, Cam?
Well, Steve, normally you're the one that sets up all my cars, especially around this amazing circuit. But it's a bit of a tricky one with these corners. You'd want to have enough ride not to be affected by the bumps. Remember, Le Mans is in its essence, really, a road, made up mostly of public roads. So that means there's oil, there's dust, there's a whole bunch of nasties out on the Mulsanne straight, and it's all bumpy. So cars will have to be high enough to prevent from bottoming out. And that's why it's important for the hypercars, whenever they go on Mulsanne, not to be in the middle part of the track, as the car will bottom. You'll see where the drivers have to switch over between the two chicanes, where it will just bottom out, unfortunately. So the drivers will need to be very cautious regarding that. And as for the GT3s, they are able to just ride the curbs. They got enough ride. The best possible way for them to actually drive would be in the middle of the track. So you want to have a car that's able to eat the aggressive curbs are out there, especially for chicane and Dunlop chicane, and then also in the two Mulsanne corners, or the Mulsanne chicanes. So the car doesn't just bounce as much. You want fast flowing, you want downforce on the straight, but also enough not to unsettle the car. It will also be have to determine on terms of driver, Stephen. I mean, as mentioned in our track guide, the two slow corners, Mulsanne and Arnage, very, very tricky and easy to light up the rears. When the times I've run around here, it does have the issue where you just get on the throttle too early and you go spinning around. So it's a bit difficult. It's all about having patience when it comes to the throttle for these drivers.
And multi-class battling also adds to it. And you've alluded to this quite a bit in terms of having the GT3s going down the center line. I tend to say that playing Pac-Man at this point, just to try and help the car out. But taking a look over to our virtual grandstands, our massive VIPs joining us. Rob van der Heerden, Antonio Gamble, Vietia Buerta, LC Joubert, everyone joining in to say, how's it flying over to Le Mans? Because, well, what other track are you going to be at this time? I mean, come on, it's Le Mans week. It is amazing. And it's also a week that you cannot forget. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, it's one of, for me, it was like, the most amazing week will be the Monaco Grand Prix with Indy 500 and Coke 600. Scratch that. I don't care about those. This is what makes the fuel in my blood pretty much just flow as fast as possible. I absolutely love this track. It's where my love for motorsport actually reignited after many years of not watching F1. And this is where I just completely fell in love with the idea of endurance racing, pushing man and machine to its absolute limit. And me and you had the discussion, and a lot of people are not going to be agreeing with me. But Stephen, everyone says Formula 1, pinnacle of motorsport. I apologize. This is the pinnacle of motorsport. Everything that we have in our everyday cars when Audi was dominating were tested here and then placed into their amazing John Quattro machines and that they have running now still there. It's absolutely, for me, the most beautiful sight that's out there. And no matter what happens, I absolutely love this track and the cars that go around here.
Well, I have to say, yes, it is one of those amazing races and the amazing series. The WEC endurance racing is just always that top pinnacle. But what I have to point out, though, it's a week I cannot forget. It's my missus' birthday on the Saturday, so trying to balance when the start of Le Mans is, when her birthday is, to try to work around that's just a bad idea. But what I'm excited about is this is the very first time here in Raceface.Pro that any driver across all three sims that we have raced on, iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, even the likes of Formula 1 and Assetto Corsa, none of our categories here have ever raced around Le Mans. This states as a first of Raceface history where we got drivers taking on Le Mans for the very first time in Raceface history, which is just mind-blowing to think about it in the existence since 2018. The whole Raceface.Pro existed up until 2025. We haven't touched Le Mans in an official championship.
Yeah, I mean, I do recall that we've run it in an off-season, but just as a bit of fun for the drivers to relax, shake off all the anger or whatever disappointment they might have had during the race, the racing championship we had there. But yeah, it's the first time, and I'm very happy to see that it's featured on our calendars, and I'm pretty sure the drivers are also happy to have it and be able to drive it. So it's quite a fun one. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes regarding having to balance this weekend along with your missus' birthday. I mean, I'm sorry if my future wife comes across this broadcast, it's going to be the same. Le Mans takes priority over everything, no matter what. I'm sorry. Divorced.
Well, that being said, times are starting to happen. Jean Fiers, who is currently out on our screen, 32.5 in the first sector, hoping to keep the improvement. The Toyotas incredibly quick here. BOP working in their favor this time around. For anyone that doesn't know what BOP stands for, it's balance of performance. It means that it's going to either help you or hinder you. But with Le Mans coming out, and we've got to explain this, there's been a massive change to the tire models that these drivers had to deal with in the last 2 days. A big tire model comes out, redone the cars, the way it performs. There was a little bit of an issue with the sim. hotfix came out today, and now we're racing. If that tells you how little driving time these drivers have had to get used to the new tire models, to set up their cars correctly, this has also changed it going forward. But that being said, it's also where we might see some new liveries coming through a little bit later on, as custom liveries are being introduced to the racing. However, Luck and Kleinans yet to go out for their times. I mean, this is a bit of a tough one. Jason Luck, incredibly quick driver in that Porsche 992 GT3, but it's a 991.2 that he's driving in. It's a 24, but unfortunately, he's sitting in the pit box waiting to go out. So is the likes of Jean Verveers. Hasn't been able to go and get a time on the board. Was doing well up until Sector 3, put a wheel off the circuit, and that was that. We're still waiting to see who can put a time on the board, but no one at this point has been able to beat it out and get their way through. I mean, this track, a 325 for our hypercars, is what's needed. If you want to match real world, a 3-minute 24.4 is what's needed to match the current, well, sitting on with the Cadillac that just put in the time in the real world. So if that's your aim, go for it. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough time. That being said, however, difficult circuit for the hypercars. Very hard. They sprung extremely hard, so it means they will be battling a bit compared to our GT3s. First time on the board, however, coming across the line, Crystals going and putting a 325.5 for the Peugeot. LaRue going and running in second place, managed to do a 329. Those are the only two drivers thus far that have put a time on the board, Cam.
Yeah, and Stephen, if you recall from last week, Stoll said he's not having much trust with how the Peugeot is going to handle here. But funny enough, look at the time he said, an absolute blistering one compared to the practice laps I've done just to get a feel and understanding of how this new time model works for these drivers. That obliterated the time I have completely. I mean, I probably matched around what Jody Sederman is setting. But the Crystal's really showing the Peugeot is out here to fight, and that matches what they're currently also showing in real world, funny enough. They have some good pace going around. They've really worked on the car, and it looks like Crystal's also put in some time to just work it out and see what's going on. And I'm just looking at him now as we look back to John Verveers. I was riding on board with him when he was trying to set his lap time, unfortunately messing up into one of the Mulsanne chicanes and taking the escape routes in order to not get the car completely smashed. But yeah, the drivers, I believe, was it the Caddy that set the new lap record, I believe? I thought the Toyota still hold it.
No, been beaten out by the Cadillac. 320, well, a lap record in race trim is still held by Toyota, but a qualifying record has been the Cadillac with a 324.4. But that was in first qualifying, might I add.
Yeah, so that's for those who don't know, Lamar finally officially started this today with his first free practice one. That me and Steve were lucky enough to just tune in and see all that fantastic cars going around there. And spinning around was that the BMW?
That's Blicknotes in first place and put in a 4-minute point 1 exact match in time with the likes of Brandon Kruger. Blicknote and Kruger have matched times. A 4-minute 1.451 to the exact. They have done that. Bernard Barkhuizen is running in third place of our GT3s. It's BMW 123. Bego Krobler prancing away in the Mustang in fourth place with Daniel de Villiers running in fifth. Jason Farmer yet to get on the board with a appropriate time. He did a 406.7. Still can go that little bit quicker. Jean Verveers, Jason Luck, Johan Kleinans, Lionel Klue, Dennis Gillett, along with Jamin Wilhelm and Julian Brains are yet to put a time on the board. And Julian actually running the first custom livery for Lamar Ultimate. If I'm taking a look at this, yes, it is. That's the first.
No. So, Steve, unfortunately, I will have to correct you there. That is not the first custom livery. That is just a livery normally, that Lamar released as part of the not beta or the early access. It's the Lamar Ultimate Porsche car, because the Porsche was the first car really out there that many of the people drove.
Okay, right.
Bit of a tricky one, unfortunately.
I just thought it was nice because it hasn't got all the massive amount of branding on it. Taking a look over to
Yeah,
our
it's
grandstands, a couple of fans out there. Rob van der Heever, Ulrich de Jager, Chris Collison going and joining in, and Paul the Wall Fenter, who just came off racing these cars. And I think there was a fun fact, I don't know if I can talk about it, that Paul Fenter was actually involved with in the background. I'm not sure. I'm going to wait for confirmation because it's kind of exciting news, I personally think, as a fellow South African. But that being said,
Well,
GT3s are sitting with a 4-minute 1.4, still letting at the top of the pack, going and make his way through. Mark van Rensburg running in second place. Then we got Dewald Null and Jeffrey Leroux are going and battling out in the two Ferraris. Runs out a bit wide. That's going to be Leroux, unfortunately, getting a off track. Got to be so cautious when coming out into Chevrolet corner. Daniel de Villiers saying good luck as he's waiting to get going. Currently running in fourth place for the PWR team, the Patterson Works Racing team. They've been on a huge charge. Jody Seidman still yet to go back out. Did a 3:31.8 and has not set another time on the board. But there's 3 hypercars that have not put a time on the board. Sean Fiers, Johan Kleinans, and Lionel Clue have not put a time on the board, Cam. This is running into a bit of a problem. Clue riding very quick. Off track, however. This is going to kill off his time as he makes his way into the chicanes. Down from 6th, into 4th, into 3rd, and then you gear down 2nd, 1st gear, and back on the power as you come across the line, really giving everything he's got. Will be a 3:27 and jumps himself up into 2nd place.
Yeah, well, it's good to see Clue on your side. I don't, as it doesn't pick up on my side of the computer. But yeah, unfortunately, the thing that these drivers that are still need to set lap times are going to be struggling a lot with, Steve, is going to be, unfortunately, be the long outlap that these cars will have to complete in order just to get the tires up and running. And now it's also important to remember there's no tire warmers for these cars. There is nothing. They go out with ambient temperature tires, meaning they will have to work the wheel in order to get the temperature up, the brakes up and running, and just get the performance they need out of the car. So, which makes it a bit tricky. I'm going to be honest, I've spun a few times just trying to get out, just do a proper lap here. But it's going to be a bit of a tricky one for these drivers, especially starting on this long one. They don't, I believe, do a full formation lap. They start right outside. Well, we'll have to see. It might be confusing between the two sims here. But it's going to be a bit tricky for these cars in order to get the track up and running. And also having to make it through turn 1, turn 2, Dunlop chicane area without collecting one another. That's the only thing I hope for, those drivers are able to make it through that chicane in one piece.
Dennis Gillett getting a time on the board, running in 14th position. Target time is a 3:25.5. That's for our hypercars. He's managed to get a time on the board, however, for our GT3s of a 4-minute 13.8, which is quite far, over 7 seconds away from Jason Farmer's 4 minutes 6. So definitely a bit of a hurt situation there, trying to find some pace in the McLaren, but still putting a time on the board as we do see a change as Bluchnote, along with Barkes and Julian Brains, up into 3rd place with a 4-minute 4.0. Bago Krobler is still waiting to put a time on the board. Another couple of drivers of Jeremiah, Brandon Kruger, and Mac Roth have not put a time on the board for our GT3s. Johan Kleinans needs to put a time on the board as well. Jacques Slater is the end of our hypercars. For Kleinans, this is all or nothing for him. He has to get a 3:38.3 to ensure he stays in the fighting contention off the start of the race. Otherwise, it's going to be too far back. Drivers just seem to be battling with a bit of grip, sliding out of the second Mozon corner, and now really doing everything he can. This is going to be a tough race for a lot of drivers, and everyone's starting to feel the pressure as it is sunshine at current, possibly weather changes to come. We don't know. We're looking out to the clouds to see if something may change. Crystals, however, quickest through Sector 1 and Sector 2. Sector 3 looks good. Can he go and beat out that 3-minute 25.5 as he battles his way through, hard on the anchors, in through the final chicanes, into the Ford chicane, and onto the power. The Peugeot runs across to Vinci put a time further up the board of 3:24.7. That is 0.3 off the official fastest qualifying in the hypercars for 2025?
I think Steve Chris Stalls has sold the other hypercar drivers a bit of a dummy, saying the car's not going to be fast. I just got a jump scare from my side as I was riding on board with Jan and Kleinhans, and unfortunately got a very low camera angle, the conic camera angle in the in the apex there, and the car just spearheaded directly for me. So a bit of a jump scare for me there. But Chris Stalls, I believe, has sold a massive dummy to all the other drivers, with Devold now getting the closest as than anybody else with the Ferrari 83 in second place, but John Verveers really putting in a good lap time there with a 329.0, and looking over the grandstands, Johan Verveers saying, yes, John, well done there, as now the other lap times are coming in here. Unfortunately, still no lap time for Jan Kleinhans. He's not going to have a valid lap time coming across the line.
Mark van Rensburg right at the last, a 3:27.3, beating out Lionel Clue, David Null in fourth, Jean Verveers lying in fifth place, but Kleinhans down at the bottom of the pack. Sector 1 and Sector 2 look better than his last. Well, he hasn't got a time on the board. Track limits have been a pain. Into the Ford chicanes, keeping it all together. Nice and gentle, going attacking the curbs. Putting the power on nice and gently. Can he bring the Ferrari across the line to get a time on the board? Does come across. Kleinhans puts himself in 10th place with a 3-minute 45.9. That is miles off the others. But we got to talk about our GT3s. Blicknote, Barkhuizen, and Brains currently at the top of the pack, with Blicknote and Barkhuizen running in that 4-minute 1.5 and 4-minute 1.45. Brains, unfortunately, with a 4-minute 4, will be running close times with Beggar Krobler. Those two very, very close in times, much like Daniel De Villiers and Jason Farmer with the 4-minute 6s. And we do have Dennis Gillett, who's now put a time in of 4-minute 6.2, as we see Blicknote putting the power down, trying to get it across the line, making his way into the Chevrolet chicanes. Gonna have to run it out a little bit wide, going and attacking the curbs hugely. And now it is gonna be a proper, never mind, just off into the dirt and into the wall. Recreating how the Mercedes looked during practice.
Oh, you can't say that, Steve. Unfortunately, we don't know what happened with the Grove Iron Lynx car, unfortunately. But yeah, not how the driver would have entered that little lap that he set up there, unfortunately.
Well, I don't think dropping a car on someone's foot would be on my list to do as well. But hey, we've had some more weirder things happen. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're just joining us, a massive welcome to you all to the Raceface.Pro. Round 3, Lamar Ultimate Championship, with our champions extremely close to one another. And we are here at the legendary Lamar. We're here at Circular South, and a big time on for Bernard Barkhuizen, a 4-minute 1.288, fastest of the GT3 times, and sticks it in right on his last lap.
Yeah, I'm quite shocked. I'm still looking at some of these lap times set by the GT3s. And unfortunately, there are 4 drivers not having gone out to set a lap time. Unfortunately, thinking rather it would be best to start from the back of the pack, which is a bold move. But yeah, I mean, these drivers are going to go blind pretty much with all of these cars, not knowing what to expect at all with the new time model, new physics that they bring to the table. So any work they've done before, as we hear our race director there saying that the drivers are allowed to grid now. But with the setups being built before the major update that happened 2 days ago, all setups are got to be broken. They can't rely on Old Faithful. They will have to do something else.
Now, this is going to be an interesting fight indeed. Let's go through our starting order here at Raceface.Pro. It's going to be Crystals and Mark van Rensburg lining the front row. For our second row, it's going to be Lionel Clue and Devot Nell, the Ferrari, hoping to get the jump on the Toyotas. Row 3 is Jean Verveers with Jeffrey Leroux, mirroring what's ahead of them. And Jeffrey Leroux hoping to put a little bit more power down. Jody Seidman and Honor Kraus will be lining at the back for row 4. Jacques Slater in the Porsche with Johan Kleinhans running in 10th place. Rounding out our hypercars. Moving on to our GT3s. Bernard Barkhuizen with Johan Blicknote look to duke it out. After matching their times in qualifying, Johan Brains and Beggar Krobler will put the hammer down, with Beggar Krobler looking to really get a little bit more of a positive launch up through the field. Daniel De Villiers and Dennis Gillett round out row 8. Further down, row 9, Jason Farmer and Jason Luck will look to do battle. Row 10 has Jeremiah Veltham and Brandon Kruger at the back of the pack. Kruger, one of our championship contenders, and Mac Roth rounding out for row 11. 21 cars set to start it, and cars are set to go here at the beautiful circuit of Le Mans. And this is going to be a
look at the weather, Stephen. It is a wet track out there. Drivers did not expect this. I can promise you that, as they all have to now do a short formation, get those tires up and running. This is shocking, as we heard our race director Ricardo Freitas saying cars need to be in position, formation lap starting. Oh, I wonder how many cars were rattled now with this. How are they going to do this? Have they run enough practice laps in the wet? That's another thing that had been on the minds of every driver as I looked at the weather radar coming into this race. Oh boy, it's Peugeot from Toyota. It's going to be an immense battle at the start. Who's going to have the horsepower? Who's going to have the bravery heading into the Dunlop chicane? Because that will probably be the first overtaking opportunity these drivers will have on one another.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge fight out till the very end. Devotnell going to be caught in the first of the rooster tails with the likes of Lionel Clue around him as well. This is going to be a bit of an interesting time. Many of the drivers have not experienced wet weather racing here at Le Mans and have not experienced wet weather driving in the Hypercars and GT3s on LMU. But it's green flag away as Crystals leads out the pack, nailing it down towards turn 1. He's got Mark van Rensburg and Devotnell trying to come back at him. And it looks like van Rensburg having a little bit more brakes. Tried to get ahead. Couldn't get it all done. Devotnell slots in behind as they all go off. That is van Rensburg off. That's Crystals off. Likes of Jeffrey LaRue. The only one that didn't go off is Devotnell.
It's Le Mans 2023, I believe, all over again with the cars. Oh, Marcus van Rensburg are getting it completely wrong, losing it behind Crystals and tumbling down the timing tower there as everybody gets past him. Brilliant start from Crystals as he's leading the way. Clear skies, well, clear air in front of him. No rooster tail in front of him, being able to see where to go. All the other drivers having to battle, unfortunately, to see where they're going as they go for the first time down the amazing Mulsanne straight as they head into the first corner. Just rooster tails everywhere, side by side action behind from looks like Jean Viviers and Jeff LaRue as going side by side now they need to be careful. Where are they going to place the car not to bottom out? Hard braking into the first part of the Mulsanne chicanes.
Yeah, Bernard Barkhuizen just getting a taste of Mark van Rensburg trying to make up some time after having a bit of an off, and our GT3s tumbling into the Mulsanne straight into the Mulsanne corner. It is Daniel de Villiers running in second place. He's got Blicknote, keeping him for company, goes around the outside. As de Villiers sends it too late, gets a tank slapper, however, and it's a beautiful flow with Jason Farmer getting it sideways as well. And that looks like it might have been Julian Brands as well in the BMW, getting it all out of shape on the run. So that is a bit of an issue going on for our drivers, not able to get the grip. And all it took was one mistake. Jason Farman now on the toe of Daniel de Villiers after the beautiful slide round. I've got to say, pirouettes, amazing. I would say very close to 10, but I'd give it more of a 6.
Well, Stephen, with my background in dancing, I would give that about a 8 out of 10. Technique, not so perfect. Oh, escape route for Daniel de Villiers. Not having the most funnest of times out there tonight, Stephen. It looks like he's really not enjoying. Now he's got a McLaren of Jason Farmer on as company as he goes trying to make a move on the outside now for the next corner. Well, it's got to be the inside for the likes of Mulsanne corner, yeah.
Now this is the bottom end. Oh. This is where you actually want to be on the outside to make it all work. It's going to be tight for Jason Farmer. Gets a bit squirrely on the brakes. De Villiers as well, trying to keep him for company. It's got him for the undercut. Both putting the hammer down, and Beggar Krobler getting a bit sideways as he launches his way through. Tough racing indeed for our drivers, but up towards the front, it's Bernard Barkhuizen and Blicknote that are fighting it out. Tim, the cameraman, getting a beautiful shot of the Toyota sign, but it's Blicknote in the spray, trying to pull himself along. Kruger, who started all the way at the back, now running to fight it out against top 3 of our GT3s. Taking a look at our Hypercars, Crystals and Devotnell are duking it out between one another. It's the Peugeot versus the Ferrari as it stands. For 6th and 7th, it is Jacques Slater and Jody Seidman still hanging in for the fight. But top 3 fight of our GT3, Bluchnote, Barkhays and Kruger, side by side they go, making their way towards the Porsche corners. And this is going to be a tough one. In through the
Unfortunately, sorry Steve, just to interrupt. Unfortunately, a very bad accident for the likes of Jason Luck. Got a drive-through on the race start, and then going into Indianapolis, or Fuddy Duddy as we're going to refer it from now on. Unfortunately, loses the rear, goes straight into the wall, and damages his front left suspension. And the bodywork does not look so good for that car. And unfortunately, we'll have to drive that back now, because that's going to take some time to repair, unfortunately, for him, as it's going to affect his race quite badly. So now, not the race that he wanted. Bad start with the drive-through, and now also losing it. But that just shows the difficulty these drivers are going to have to face with this rain. It's tough. Le Mans is difficult in dry. It is an absolute monster in the wet, with the transition from racetrack to public road to racetrack again. On roads, public roads is oil. Everything's going to come up now with this wetness. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for these drivers to maintain it going on those public sections.
1 hour and 15 minutes remain of this track, and this round 3 of absolute nightmares for the round 3 of the Le Mans Ultimate. Currently soaking wet out there. That spray turning into a bit of a nightmare for some, but we are starting to see some pit stops. Likes of Chris Stills into the pit box, and that is a bit of a problem. Jean Fafiers is currently stopped. Chris Stills is in the box. They have pushed that car back to get some repair work done to it. Not ideal circumstances for what was our leader of the Hypercars. That's actually given it to now Dewald Nell and Jeffrey LaRue along with Johan Kleinans to fight it out. Our battle for the GT3s, however, still rages on with Bluchnote and Barkhazen all over the back of one another.
That looks to be a complete mechanical failure for the likes of Chris Souls. Having to tow back and just, as you said, not tow back, go into the pits and being pushed back into the pits box. John Verveers is getting some work done after his looks to be at an accident there as he's dropped and going now from the Toyota. But Chris Souls is finally out of the pits. I wonder what happened there, Steve. That is not something that we're expecting to happen so early for these cars to go into the pits.
Well, we're getting reports in that Crystals had a disconnect. It's managed to reconnect, but the problem is now down the order. We'll have to fight it out and takes him out of running in the top 3 for his championships. So not ideal circumstances. Brandon Kruger, however, watching Bluchnote and Barkhazen fight it out against one another, hoping for just an opportunity as the spray kicks up. We do see Lionel Clue in the background, one of our hypercars trying to slice through the field, and it's going to be late on the brakes for Bluchnote trying to bring the car back behind Barkhazen and Kruger all over the back of him. Moving it further up the hypercar battle, Mark van Rensburg and Jacques Slater duking it out. The Toyota Gazoo Racing, Mark van Rensburg fighting out against Penske Porsche Motorsports, and the Porsche's very, very quick and nimble in the wet weather, but when it comes to driving, it is all about Toyota's top end. That seems to be the fight as they contact into the right-hander, both able to save it into Indianapolis, and that is Jacques Slater, goes out wide. Van Rensburg goes for the undercuts. He's going to have the outside, hard braking into the right-hander. Jacques Slater.
Not where you want to be, though.
Both of them ran out a little bit wide there. Ultimately, Mark van Rensburg getting the big loss there, and it does look like a loss of control for Jody Seidman into the wall, and now needing some repair work to his car after that through Indianapolis. Not ideal circumstances.
No, absolutely not, Stephen, but that is something that was noted during the track walk, where you have to be patient. I'm looking at Jacques Slater now, going into Porsche curves and making the Porsche curves seem a bit wider. Unfortunately, running into the kitty litter there, and it rejoins just behind the likes of Mark van Rensburg. But yes, the Arnage is one of the trickiest corners, where if you get on throttle early, you will unfortunately spin out, and there is not much gap on either side. You will unfortunately hit a barrier there, and that is what Jody Seidman unfortunately realized just now and experienced just now, but also the likes of Jason Luck, who's got a stop-go now, Stephen. Looking at our board here, Jason Luck with a stop-go. I wonder, is that for track limits? Or, unfortunately, he did service drive-through. I did see him come across.
So that would be for track limits.
Box.
That would be
for
so
track
that
was
limits
track
exceeded.
limits.
Unfortunately,
not the race he wanted. Crystal's now a lap down also in the likes of where he's running 9th still in class. And John Fafier's also in 8th, but has to work through a massive pack of GT3s. It's just showing the difficulty that these drivers unfortunately have to face now.
Well, through the Porsche curves they go. Daniel de Villiers got the outside over Jason Farmer. Two of them fighting it out. Farmer just couldn't hold on to that inside line, had to back it out, and allows Daniel de Villiers to get the run as they make their way towards Chevrolet. This is going to be an opportunity for the McLaren driver, Jason Farmer, to really put the hammer down as they go out wide. A little bit of a fishtail, catching the car, and now putting that hammer down towards the Ford chicane. So it's going to be a little bit difficult pass, especially 0.6 of a second. It's going to open up the gap for Daniel de Villiers. Is going to settle and be a little bit more comfortable on his drive. Back up to a close battle in our GT3s. Bernard Barkhuizen and Brandon Kruger. Closest fight on circuit at the moment. And it is still Kruger throwing hammer and tongs at the likes of Barkhuizen. Not able to go and get him off the line as quick as he would like, as they continue on the charge. It is BMW 1-2-3 for our GT3s, and it is Ferrari 1-2-3 for our hypercars here at Le Mans for round 3. And still so much of the race going on, so much to go and do, but also pit stops may play a massive factor for us this evening.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephen. I mean, me and you were speaking earlier today about will the pit stops be a part? I mean, this is going to be the first time, I believe, the drivers will have to do a pit stop in this championship. So they will have, this is going to be something new to them. But so far, as you mentioned, it is an Italian affair in the GTP class all the way at the top, and a German affair in the GT3 class, with BMW again showing their prowess on around the circuits. Now, does this bode well for their real-world counterparts? As unfortunately last year in the real world, they just got snuffed out from winning. But now it's going to be who is going to take it, with Bernard Barkhuizen fighting back after a unfortunately bad race at Bahrain last year, with suffering a disconnect, I believe, and now having to fight his way back into the championship. But I believe that John Bluchnout, who was a part of this duo up front, made a mistake and then dropped, unfortunately led to the gap between the three of them now here. But
4
Bernard Kruger,
seconds.
Brandon Kruger caught my eye going into the S's just after Dunlop. Really brave on the brakes there, Stephen, closing right up onto Bernard Barkhuizen. It's a bit of a tricky one in terms of this weather conditions, but it seems like he's got the car quite well under control.
That's Jason Farmer and Daniel de Villiers, however, look to continue the fight. Daniel de Villiers just carrying a little bit more momentum. Jason Farmer trying to come back at him, both fishtailing to try and bring the cars under control. They do have the hypercars starting to carve their way through, as we do see Chris Stills in the background, who's putting the hammer down in the Peugeot. Will look to try and get past both cars before the end of the Mozon Straight. It is going to be Jason Farmer to keep an eye on his mirrors, sees him come by, and Daniel de Villiers stuck on the outside immediately gets a bit of an aero wash, trying to keep the car sorted, has got all the spray kicked up in front of his windscreen, puts a hammer down, and gets a bit unsettled in that Mustang. Not an easy drive, but Chris Stills trying to unlap himself at the moment, lying 21st overall and last of the entirety of the pack. That being said, Jody Seidman going and having a great run ahead of Jacques Slater, as looked like Jacques around the outside taking way too much of the Ford chicane, could not stop the car enough, still continues to go side by side. Over the curb they go. Jody Seidman gets collected by Jacques Slater, trying to rejoin. Jacques Slater does wait up, however, for the likes of Jody Seidman, but that has killed Jody's drive, and he will be going and scratching his head thinking what can he do to bring it back and try and retake that 5th place.
Unfortunately, now with that hit, the cars will have some damage on it. But yeah, I mean, it just shows that these cars are a bit of a different breed and different monster to drive with in these conditions. As I kept on, oh, there we go, a bit of a give the position back there from the likes of Jacques Slater. Very, very nice move there. Gentleman's agreement there between the two of them. So well done for that. Trying not to obeying team orders and not do what Max Verstappen did and not give the position back. And I know it pains me a lot because Steven knows how much I love Max. But yes, a good thing to do there. But well done for that move from Slater as they go. But I'm looking at the fight between De Villiers and Farmer, just seeing how the cars react. I wonder how many penalties De Villiers is going to rack up every time he exits. Corvette curve and going into the Chevrolet corner there, it's a bit of a running wide because you will get penalized if you do not come back before that curve ends, unfortunately.
Going and sliding around like there is no tomorrow, each trying to get one up over the competition, and ultimately it does look like De Villiers having a hard time. Jason Farmer, however, who's running just behind, can't quite get the drive he would like to stay in for the fight, constantly hunting down for any opportunity at the moment. And this is a constant fight that we've been seeing. They will have Jean Fiers trying to catch up to them, and we do see him in the background as Jason Farmer very, very close to the rear of De Villiers. Nearly a bit of contact there, and I think a little bit of a flash of light saying, listen, sorry, that gave me a fright as well. De Villiers will have to hold on just a little bit longer, but now the hypercars are going to come into play. Jean Fiers going and sliding his way through, and we do have a McLaren in the wall. That is a McLaren into the wall.
Jermaine Valathium, unfortunately, making a mistake there, going into Tete Rouge and losing his rear wing. But now, as we see, having to circulate now without the rear wing, which is very dangerous. As we can see there, no downforce, no rear stability, and that will just send him around again.
Massive damage to that car, and he's just trying to bring it back nice and gentle at this point. Bagar Krobler going to be happy about gaining a free position, but not quite what Jermaine really wanted to face here at Le Mans. It's definitely going to knock him down the order. Next person to get past him is going to be Mac Roth in the McLaren as well, starting to close up the gap and smiling ear to ear on the way through. Going back to our closest battle, it is Daniel De Villiers and Jason Farmer still fighting it out. Jody Seidman keeping the likes of Jacques Slater at bay as well. Mark van Rensburg going and tipping down the order. Mark van Rensburg with a lot of damage to the car. Lost it through Indianapolis. And now just trying to bring a crabbing Toyota back to the pits. And you can see having to fight tooth and nail just to bring it even remotely closer.
Unfortunately, just losing it and losing the rear wing there. But here's a funny thing, Stephen. There's a rumor that goes around the Mars saying that the number 7 Toyota is cursed. As I just looked at him now and just spun again. And unfortunately, he is the only running Toyota with the number 7 on. So I think the curse from real world has transferred into sim, and that is not what Mark van Rensburg wanted. Not the results he wanted, having a great qualifying.
I picked 38. If it means I got to pay extra, I'm not taking that number. I'll take anything but that number. Give me.
I always race with the 7. I always race with the 7 in my race car due to personal meanings. But unfortunately, crabbing that car really not wanted to work together. But the curse has transferred from real world into sim, with Mark van Rensburg having a great qualifying, just as his real world counterpart did. And then having an absolutely horrible Dunlop chicane in the first corner, as he now has to go to Porsche curves with crystals, having a moment there almost. But just not performing well for the Toyota number 7. And who can forget the unfortunate loss that the Toyota 7 experienced in 2016.
Well, taking a look at the fights on screen at the moment, Jason Farmer and Daniel De Villiers still brawling between one another. De Villiers getting the run through Indianapolis. Now gets ahead of Jason Farmer, who tries to bring it back as they launch their way through. This is helping Julian slowly make up a bit of time behind them as he looks to stay in for the fight. This is a fight for an overall 13th and 14th, but 4th and 5th in class. Daniel De Villiers looking to score big points here today and not lose out, as he's got Jason Farmer keeping him company. You can see the McLaren far more stable, heading into the Porsche curves, runs out a little bit wide, tries to look for the inside line through Porsche, not easy to do, tries once again to hug the apex, hoping to force Daniel off that line, and will try once again, heading towards Chevrolet. Out wide, brings it back, gets a little bit squirmy, however. That killed off the drive, and now we'll have to wait through the 4 chicanes. Up into 5th gear, heading towards 6th. Then you're going to back it down into 4th, into 3rd, and down towards 2nd and 1st gear to slowly put the power back on with this rainy conditions. Challenging times out here, and the driver's starting to feel it more and more. But if my eyes don't deceive me, the rain seems to be fading, and we're starting to see a little bit of a dry line forming on some of the corners away from the puddles.
Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you, Stephen. This gigantic, I believe, 3.6 kilometer almost circuit, 13.6 kilometer circuit, 13.2, can't remember now entirely. Circuit is quite long, so there will be rain in some parts, rain not in some parts. But I'm looking at the likes, well, the two differences between this McLaren and Ford of de Villiers and Farmer. The McLaren is very low to the ground, so it's trying to get as much speed as possible in the fast sections, which will suit it much better for the likes of Porsche, for the Porsche curves, which just fast flowing corners, but it can't tackle the curbs as aggressively as the Mustang. The Mustang is just able to ride directly over them and not feel as much effect, but unfortunately it does hunker a bit down and slow down when it comes to the Mulsanne straight or any of the fast corners. So that's where the likes of Farmer makes up a lot of time compared to the likes of de Villiers.
Well, Mark van Rensburg, Bago Krobler, Jermaine, all into the pits, getting some work done to them. Leading out the pack, however, for our hypercars as we head into the 1 hour mark, it is Jeffrey LaRue with the Jan Kleinans running in second place, Dion Null running in third, Jody Seidman, Jacques Slater, Lionel Clue, Arno Kraus, and Jean Verveers round out our running hypercars. A little bit further down, however, is Mark van Rensburg and Crystal's trying to have a bit of a recovery in the Peugeot. But taking a look at our GT3s, it's Bernard Barkhuizen leading out the pack with Brandon Kruger in second place. Bluchnote runs in third. Daniel de Villiers, Jason Farmer, Julian Bruins a little bit down in sixth, along with Mac Roth coming down the Motorheads straight, running in seventh. Eighth place is Dennis Gillett, who keeps ahead of Jermaine in the pit box, getting some repair work done. Bago Krobler getting some repair work done to his Mustang, and Jason Luck rounding out our GT3s.
Yeah, Stephen, I actually wanted to make a bit of a joke. If you take a look at Bago Krobler in the pits there, if you want to see what a road-going Ford Mustang looks like with the new generation, just look at Bago Krobler's no rear ring at the back. No.
Yes.
No. Oh, wow. We're going to go for that one, really? No. What's with people hating on Ford? But no, just no rear ring. That's how a road-going Ford Mustang looks on the road.
It does.
But
It's a road-going Mustang. It sits on the jacks. If you don't believe me, ask Richard Finneheader what happened at Killarney, and there was a Ford Mustang on the jacks.
Everywhere I go this week, I keep on getting roasted about my love for the Ford GT, the Ford GT40, the Ford Mustang.
No,
it's always
GT,
I know it's normally
the Ford GT40 is fine, but it's better than the squashed out McLaren 720S. That being said, however, McLaren 720S has proven to be quite a car to deal with a straight line, and that's what it has. A lot of top end compared to many of the other GT3 cars like the BMWs.
And great brakes. I mean, it's phenomenal on the brakes. Its best braking happens at the latest stage of its braking cycle, which is absolutely why I love it. It pesterizes my teammates sometimes, but I absolutely love it.
Well, that being said, Jason Farmer being a pester to Daniel de Villiers, who keeps locking down that center line. Over the curbs they go, battling to keep these cars in check. And it's just about feeding the power on. It's getting drier and drier out there. Many drivers will be considering to move over to slicks and this current state. I mean, Cam, this is where we start to question tire changes. At the moment, everyone's gone out on wets. Not many have gone out on slicks. Your thoughts on when to start that transition into slick tires instead of wet weather tires?
Well, Steve, I can't really normally say. I just feel, without me knowing what the car feels like out there, as we see Jason Farmer losing it there to accelerate off the Porsche curves, but it's a bit difficult. I won't say it's a time now to go and change to dries, even though it's a dry line forming. It's too much of a risk. You don't know what the track's going to be like on another part of the track. One part might have a dry line, the next part might still have rain coming down, and might be a wet track, so you do not know. It's a bit of a gamble, especially around such a long circuit. But it seems like the battle between de Villiers and Farmer is finally over now, as with that mistake from Farmer, cost him some time now and has to claw back. So it's a bit of a gamble. It's in the hands of the team strategist and see what they're going to do.
Well, it is Jacques Slater getting overtaken by Arno Kraus. Quick work for Arno Kraus to get on by. as he's stuck to the outside, ensuring that he can continue the movement forward. And that has just put Jacques Slater further down. He goes straight into the kitty litter. Jacques Slater says thank you very much. Arno losing out a bit of time. Will have to try and battle it back after a little bit of a visit. Now having to clean and scrub those tires to continue on finding any grip. And what went from sitting, well, with roughly 2 seconds, went to 0. And now has opened up to 1.2 seconds after Arno Kraus went through the kitty litter at the likes of Indianapolis. Still lots to go on, but that Toyota is really on the attack and forcing Jacques Slater to be very, very cautious on how he moves forward. This is also where we start bringing in our power. This is where we talk about the energy that's stored up, that is done under braking with these hypercars. You can then transition it to put a lot of power back down. Gives you a bit of four-wheel drive assistance. And we do see Jacques Slater going and losing a bit of time. He dives off into the dirt. Slater with 51%, but take a look at LaRue. He's been on the gas the whole way through. 29% left in the battery as he continues his drive in attack mode.
I'm just looking at what Slater is doing, Steve. I wonder if he got caught out by the likes of where the pit entry is and where the runoff is for, well, what you call karting, the karting circuit at the mall, as he's now in the pits. So I think we might see our first tire changer out, because as we were looking at the race, you can clearly see there that the run from Moulton Corner to Arnage is pretty much dry. Then you get back onto the Bugatti circuit of Le Mans, and that's just wet again. So that's where the gamble comes in. Is it wet? Is it dry? You don't know. It's going to be. Do you want to risk it on slicks, I think I just see him change his slick tires, or do you want to just nurse your wet tires until it's a bit more dry? That's the question. I mean, I believe that these tires with a white wall on them indicate that those are wet weather tires.
We'll wait for some confirmation on what's going out from our timing software. Daniel De Villiers, Jason Farmer still keeping close to one another, but pit stop starting to come into fray. Who's going to be able to move their way up? That being said, let's look at our positions, gains and losses, because Kruger is up 10 positions since the start of his race, and we've got the likes of Johan Kleinans in the Hypercars up 8 positions since the start of his race. Biggest losses, however, is the likes of Crystal's 17 positions down from where he started due to a disconnect and now having to fight his way through the field.
Yeah, and Steve, I can confirm that Jacques Slater has put on dry tires, but he is still in the pits. Probably getting some work done on the car. But yes, the wet tires are all blue, but the dry tires has a bit of a white patch on them on the Michelin Pilot Sport tires as he's dropped down and finally rolling.
So that being said, first driver to switch over to slicks and away from the wet. A bit of a gamble that many of the drivers and teams will be looking down the pit boxes saying, right, what's happening? Is there an advantage to go out on slicks? As Slater will be the very first car to do it, we do see a multitude of cars heading in, such as our GT3s, possibly thinking the very same idea. Start moving over to slicks. These wet tires are going and they're degrading too quickly. They are starting to wear out. They're getting too hot. We need to switch over to something a bit better. As likes of Brains is first into the pits for our GT3s and will continue on his drive. That being said, Slater has got a lot of work on him. LaRue and Kleinans running up ahead, however, are starting to close the gap on one another. So
Apologies, Steve. I'm trying to find out the tires here for these drivers and what the plan is that all of these drivers are trying to do. It's kind of interesting.
Well, taking a look, John Verveers has gone through the box, Slater's gone through the box, Villetham has gone through the box. In our running order, it does look like Van Rensburg's he's gone through the box, Luck and Krobler have all gone through the box. Everyone else has not. And this is a bit of an interesting situation, but a change up for first place as LaRue and Kleinans fight it out. Side by side, heading into the first chicane, hard on the brakes. It is going to be LaRue with the advantage. Kleinans trying to go around the outside. does the switchback, goes for the inside line. Couldn't quite get the power on as early as you would like, as LaRue immediately trying to cut him off. That is going to be nose to tail, charging their way through. Kleinans still searching for the inside line. He is determined to go for the apex ahead of LaRue. Gets in, side by side they go, close. Down towards the second chicane, who's going to be late on the brakes, and it looks like it may be Kleinans just getting the run on LaRue. Little bit of contact between the two of them. LaRue down into second place. Kleinans up into first. Change of order. Jody Seidman in fourth has got Lionel Clue battling side by side with him as they head down towards the first chicane. It is going to be an almighty charge for Jody Seidman, and it is going to be Lionel Clue down the inside. Gets the pass done. Jody Seidman, no fighting it out there.
No, just making a wise choice not to battle that one too much. But as we see the two Ferraris, it is the customer Ferrari colored team or car taking over from the factory team. So if it were real life, Ferrari would be happy, but not completely happy. But a brilliant move there from the likes of Jan Kleinans, just sticking it into the second chicane of Mulsanne, really being brave on the brakes, especially where it's a bit wet. As we can see now, the track's a bit dry. But yes, I can confirm, Steve, dry tires have the white patch on them. Wet tires are all blue, as we currently see on the drivers. So many of these drivers are just trying to stick it out, hoping that the track dries out a bit more in certain parts of the section, specifically Mulsanne and the Bugatti circuit, as these parts are all still dry. Are completely dry now, so these wet tires are probably going to become bald very soon.
Now we've got to talk about these different tire compounds as well. Van Rensburg is on wet, but Slater opted for the soft dry tire to go out with the hypercars. Means maximum amount of grip, but not a long tire life that he has to deal with. If we look at our GT3s, however, there has been a bit of a change for that, as we currently have got one of our cars, the likes of Brains, who is currently on a medium dry tire. So Brains, lying in 8th place of the current GT3s, has decided he's going to go for a medium tire. Why would you pick a soft over a medium tire in the hypercar, especially in these early stages?
That's actually something that is a bit of messing with my brain here, Stephen. I mean, we normally run the soft compound for the hypercars during qualifying, because that's when you need the most grip, you need the best acceleration out of the corners, and that's what the soft tire will provide you. Over a long stint, however, you would normally run the mediums or the hards. The hards will normally be for much longer racing than we currently have here, but the mediums would perform a bit better for this race. So it's kind of strange that Slater has opted to go for a soft tire, where normally I would recommend going for a medium, especially looking at the time that is still remaining. But now the question is, will he be able to nurse those tires into the wet patches, in the wet corners? Yes, he'll be able to make up in dries, but they will be completely ice cold when they hit the wet patches.
I'm also thinking 48 minutes to try and keep those tires alive. This is an incredibly long circuit to go and deal with lots of hard braking and lots of strain onto the left-hand fronts that every single one of the cars can be going through, no matter if you're in a hypercar or a GT3, to go and deal with. And this is always a tough call, but the team's working out what's going to work for them. What do they need to do in critical moments? And well, this is becoming an interesting fight. Jason Farmer ahead of Daniel De Villiers as they make their way onto the Mulsanne straight, charging their way through. And fun fact, I found this today. Do you know you can actually go and race the Le Mans circuit with the original no chicanes on LMU?
I did. I found that out yesterday. when I was booting up the sim in order to get a better feel of what these drivers were doing. I was like, oh, they have the actual Mulsanne circuit, and that's the actual name of it, the Mulsanne circuit. That's where it has the chicanes removed from it, and that's where these cars will hit 400 plus. But I don't think, no, when Mercedes went flying head over heels with Peter Dunbrick behind it, they still had the chicanes in, I believe.
Yep, flat bottom,
yeah,
a little bit of air, and that was a regulation change for how aero is done underneath prototypes. Other than having tunnels. Yeah, it was other than having tunnels, that was it. So, This is going to be an interesting one for how the drivers are going to do, and we're getting some report back from our grandstands as well, saying all tires can double stint. The different tire in Hyper are for the different weather conditions. So that's the reason that you would have it in the mix. Now, I do, however, want to think that this is a bit of an interesting time for many of the drivers to figure out how they're going to do it. I wonder if it was possibly a mistake that then came into play as well, that took him out of it. But take a look at this. We have got our front running pack. Kleinans trying to keep ahead of LaRue. Jeff LaRue is running with only 13% left power in the battery. Been spending a lot of time in attack mode, not recovering the energy as much as he would like. Late on the anchors through the Porsche curves, trying to just recover some of that energy to be able to fight it out with Kleinans. But this is going to start impacting him during the course of the race of how to move forward. Everyone just knuckling down, focusing on what they need to do. But at the moment, the closest fight on circuit is first overall, with the likes of Kleinans and LaRue that are giving everything they got, and they still out there on wet weather tires. They're not on dries as yet, and these tires are going to be begging for mercy as the track has definitely gotten a lot better and a lot hotter.
Yeah, this would be now the point where I would say the drivers should switch onto those dry tires. I mean, I haven't seen much spray, only some puddles every now and then, but the cars seem to be having a much better grip. But I do believe that Jeff LaRue will be playing a bit of a long game, even though he's a bit low, just trying to stretch as much of his virtual energy as possible before going and boxing and putting on those slicks to hopefully make up some ground on the likes of Jan Kleinans. So we'll see what happens. It might be a bit of a strategic move, as I'm looking at Kleinans having a bit of a slide there on his way out of the SS into Tete Rouge. Oh boy, I think those wet weather tires are saying, listen here brother, I've had enough. You have butchered me for how many laps now? I think it's time I need to break.
Going and fighting it out at over 300 kilometers an hour, still putting the hammer down. That being said, let's take a look at our mid-race results thus far, starting off with our hypercars, and it is Johan Kleinans leading out the pack with Jeffrey LaRue running in second, Devon Nell in third, Lionel Clue, Jody Seidman, Arno Kraus, Jean Verveers, Jacques Slater, and Mark van Rensburg, followed by Chris Stools rounding out our top 10. Taking a look at our GT3s, it is going to be Bernard Barkhuizen currently ahead of Brandon Kruger, Johan Blutner, Jason Farmer, Daniel De Villiers, followed by Mark Roth, Dennis Gillett, Julian Brains, Bego Krobler, and Jeremiah Vathlin, rounding out our top 10 with Jason Luck sitting in 11th place.
Absolutely great action tonight on the circuit here, Steve, and it's great skills from our drivers here, showing the difference, how they're handling the different changing conditions from wet to dry, and also the bit of the traffic that they have. It's phenomenal to see it, and I always makes me happy to see these cars go around such a legendary circuit such as Le Mans. And yeah, I'm great. It brings us back again what you mentioned earlier, the first time that they're running it in a championship, a point scoring championship, and what better sim to do it on than Le Mans Ultimate, where they have absolutely done perfect work on the sim for the circuit.
That's the WEC's official sim. I mean, what better way to have it?
You can't do a shoddy work on it. You have to put in a lot of time. So, really, I'm happy to see this circuit, and I'm great to see the drivers absolutely having a good time out there tonight.
Well, talk about this. Fastest lap time for each class. It is Chris Stolz who set the fastest lap time in the hypercars with a 3-minute 44.1. And he is still on wet weather tires. He did have his disconnect. He's lying 12th overall, but lying 8th in his class. Still trying to make up some time, and will need to switch out onto some dries. We did see him get a 3:24 in qualifying, which matches the fastest that we've seen here in 2025 in the actual hypercar class around Le Mans today. Bernard Barkhuizen, fastest lap time over GT3s, a 4-minute 14.0. Incredibly quick. Brandon Kruger's only been able to get a 4-minute 17, so you can already see the time split between the drivers trying to get to grips with what they need to do to claw their way to victory. And with fastest lap time means that you're actually getting in everyone's head. Kleinans running up very wide, sliding the car around, 42 minutes to go, however, trying to push it a little bit further in the race. Is he going to dive into the box this time around? Nope, not going to be doing so. And just tries to open the corner up a little bit more, bouncing over the curbs, really sending it and taking some harsh hits on the undercarriage of that Ferrari 499P.
I mean, we and you spoke about it earlier today also, the amount of pain. I mean, you said from your mechanic point of view, well, your mindset as a mechanic, seeing the car bounce over those curbs and just knowing the amount of damage is being done on the suspension and the undercarriage, the floorboard. I mean, these hypercars are very sensitive in terms of their floors. So if they get damaged, you do lose some top end speed, but it's just painful. But it's the best way to get around Le Mans, the fastest way. Cut the corners, say sorry to the mechanics later, just go, get the fast laps, get the lead, and run as best as possible. A car can be fixed, but happiness and triumph at Le Mans cannot be always guaranteed.
Car can be fixed and say sorry to the mechanics afterwards. You are brave. Mechanics will remember this. Well, at the moment, Gavard now up into second place. We did, however, see LaRue getting into the box. So Jeff LaRue now into the box. Is he going to be switching out to those soft tires? I do think so. Martin Blue moves up into third place. And as I said, confirm LaRue now on to slicks. Will be moving his way forward. The question is, will he be going on to mediums or will he be going on to soft tires? We got the like of Blicknote into the box as well for our GT3s. So we have now got our third place GT3 car up on the jacks, moving back a little bit. He missed his pit box. That's going to cost him a bit of time. But Blicknote will be swapping out as well during the course of this race. So this is going to be an interesting time for many of our drivers. We hit the 40-minute mark. It's now beyond the halfway point for a lot of these drivers, and it's going to be a sprint race to the end. Selection of what you're going to have here. Soft tires, medium tires. Yes, you can double stint them. Yes, you can go that little bit more. But what can you do in the last remaining 40 minutes of this race?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephen. I'm just trying to get a confirmation entirely from the crew and our timing screens on what tires LaRue has placed on. They did have the white wall marking there, but it does seem to have a bit of tread. Let me just make sure as he flies past our camera.
He's got a...
So he did go soft. Okay.
Yeah,
so he's going to try and make up the gap that he lost. He has now enough energy in the tank. He's got a fresh set of softs. It's now going to matter what he does on this outlap in order to close the gap to Jan Kleinans. I'm looking at Kleinans as he is now going into Indianapolis and then going straight into Arnage. So going to be Gouling. Will he be a bit spooked as that car does not look happy as he accelerated out of Indianapolis to get up to speed again before braking for Arnage? The car fishtailing around. Not really happy, so I think he will have either box now or try extend another lap. He's got enough energy in the tank to try and prevent this undercut from LaRue to be a bit of an impact on his race. Now, both the same car, same amount of energy output, is just set up that's different. And we actually heard something earlier today that all of these hypercars all are homologated, I believe is the right term. So they're all exactly the same, only one place where they can be changed, and that's aero. That's the only way that it can be affected, be faster or slower.
Well, that's it. The new hypercar rules replacing the original LMP ones, going and homologating all the categories together. And it's the same as your GTPs and your hypercars, same thing. You can actually intermingle the IMSA and the likes of a WEC together. There's no issue. There's only a slight change in rules that they've done with how many cars you're allowed to have and how many you need to produce and so on. And what type of manufacturers can do it. Basically, you can't be a private brand, build your own hypercar, and then go racing. You have to be part of Ferrari. You have to be part of Ford. You have to be part of a manufacturer that is existing and has produced over 10,000 vehicles during the course of 3 years. I think that is the official homologation.
Yeah, and I believe that's also why we lost the likes of privateer teams such as Glickenhaus, who unfortunately they were getting some parts from Scuderia Ferrari, but it was their own car, but unfortunately not being able to continue that privateer entry into the
They are coming back. Glickenhaus is coming back. They have created where they've utilized their GT4 and GT3 that is now purchasable to fall into those rules. So... fun fact.
But they won't be entering. Will be entering the hypercar category? We do not know.
No, they
That's
will.
another question.
They've already said
Okay, well, that's perfect then.
they've already started working on their hypercar. That being said, Dervalnel is getting some work done on his hypercar in the pit box. He's sorting himself out. Bernard Barkhuizen's into the box. Daniel de Villiers is into the box. First retirement, however, Jean Verveers is out of the race. We have lost Jean Verveers and the first of our hypercars to retire during the course of this. Jeremiah trying to carry his momentum through has got Bego Krobler still waiting to get going. Bego's been in the box for quite some time here and lots of work being done to his car. Jason Luck will be gaining a position, but Bego Krobler has not moved at all, as we do see Jason Luck catching the Porsche only just as he gets overtaken by our Toyota Gazoo's and really trying to fight it out. Not an easy run for the Porsche.
No, unfortunately not. Well, getting a drive-through on race start and then getting a stop-go, and then also the impact at Arnage corner, not really what he wanted to do. So the race has gone from bad to worse for him. But I'm trying to see if our cameras caught what happened with the likes of John Verveers. So just going back, looking at our timing screens to see what's going on here. But yeah, so far all the drivers that have gone into the pits have been switching over to our dryers. I think dryers will be the next one. Now it's all about how's Jeff Leroux going to be able to make up that position that he lost to the likes of Johan Kleinans?
Well, he's got Jody Seidman to try and get ahead of. Lionel Clue will be the next of that before catching up to Kleinans, who still needs to get in. Clue and Seidman still out there on the wet weather tyres, not having the easiest of run. They will hope to push a little bit harder. Kleinans, however, also needs to get into the box. So Leroux, who is currently way down the order, he is sitting 99 seconds off the likes of Kleinans, and that is light years away from where he needs to be. Needs to put the hammer down. He's only got 35 minutes to get it done and dusted in the Ferrari 499P, and this is going to be a wild one. The second of Ferrari's, this is Ferrari's return to likes of hypercar, supercar racing.
Third year.
In terms of
Third
prototypes.
Year.
No, in terms of prototypes, this is the second prototype. Because the last of the prototypes they had was a 299 open cockpit. And do you know, in South Africa, we actually have one lurking around in Sandton on show.
I did not know that, Steven. So that's good to know for anybody who wants to go Ferrari hunting. You can take photos, just don't touch it. But a bit of an update for the likes of John Leroux, what happened with his race. He was coming out of the Porsche curves and Corvette corner. And unfortunately, as he approached Chevrolet corner, just lost the rear, snapped him, and went nose first into the tire barrier on the inside and went spinning like a top. So that car completely smashed to bits. Car done, dusted. Number 8 Toyota one of the number 8 Toyotas. Garage door closed. Red marker of death through the injury. Goodbye.
Oh man, that is just gut-wrenching. Well, we do see Bernard Barkhuizen getting past Bego Krobler. And next to get past to gain a position is going to be Chris Stalls. He's finally going to be making up a position, gets a tank slapper, but this will now move him up into 9th place overall and onto the back of the hypercars. Chris Stalls has finally overtaken every single one of the GT3s and now is in the charge to try and make up some ground to Mark van Rensburg ahead.
Well, Steven, here's another fight. Jan Kleinans is in the pits. He's being pushed. Oh, no, they just moved him. I thought he was being pushed back into the pits, into his box here. Now he's on his rolling out. Jody Sedemont going into the pits now. Where is Jeff Leroux? Jeff Leroux is just exiting, going into the Ford chicanes now, the Ford chicane complex, as Jan Kleinans is still on pit limiter.
I'm waiting on
Who's going to have a good one?
I'm waiting for Kleinans. He's gone.
Off pit limiter.
He's off pit limiter.
Where is Jeff Leroux? He's approaching Dunlop chicane now. It's going to be a close battle. He can see him up the road. Jan Kleinans' tires cold. Jeff Leroux's tires up to temperature. Who is going to be the best? 3 seconds is the gap between the two of them. That was a gap. Oh, missed the break point there for Jeff Leroux, running wide, taking the shortcut through the first part of Dunlop chicane as he's going into the SS now as he's shunting down. 3 second gap. That was pretty much the same as before Leroux pitted. So not much gain, not much lost, but now getting their tires up to temp for Kleinans is going to be the next important key as they head into this lap.
Leroux is skating all over the show, trying to bring the car back, pushing harder and harder, and it doesn't seem to be too comfortable as he tries to close up the gap to the likes of Johan Kleinans. Everyone quite split at the moment as we start getting towards the fringes of the end of the race. And this is going to be an interesting time for many of the teams to just find that little bit of a rhythm, that little bit of push. This is a little bit of a longer race as we do see LaRue off once again, outbraking himself into the Mozon chicane. Kleinhunt's a lot more settled on his way through. Dennis Gillett into pit lane as well to get his pit stop done and dusted and carry on. But currently, Johan Kleinhunt's up to 318 kilometers an hour down the Mozon straight. Hard brakes, brings it back. And before we get to the end, let's see what he'll be up to. 318 was top speed, fastest of all the cars out on the circuit. So that is the quickest that any of the hypercars have done. Will he be able to get a little bit quicker? That tells me his aero is a lot more balanced, a lot more flattened out. He is in for top speed. 305, 307. So 318 was the fastest for the likes of Johan Kleinhunt in the 83.
Oh, Stephen, that was also measured between the two chicanes. So on this corner from Mulsanne all the way to Indianapolis, the cars are also going to reach a bit of a high end speed. So we'll see what happens here. But I was looking at LaRue's line on the in the second part, the final part of exit of the Mulsanne chicane. He was in the middle of the track, bottoming out. That's going to affect the aero very much on that car, and it's going to slow him down immensely. So it's not the best place you want to put a hypercar, unfortunately.
LaRue does set the fastest lap time of the race, however, with a 3:37.3, as we do get another unfortunate retirement. Bego Krobler out of the race, going in, not able to finish this race. Bego Krobler closed up shop. That is the end of the Mustang. The number 44, unfortunately, locking its doors, and the team now watching from the sidelines.
It's such a sad sight to see drivers unfortunately having to retire and the garage door coming down on them, as that's the normal, well, that is the symbol that is showing the car is not going to finish at Le Mans, which is quite sad. But I've seen from all the drivers I've seen today, Stephen, many of these drivers unfortunately losing, like Daigo also losing it into one of the corners and clipping the concrete wall on the inside. But many of the GT3 drivers unfortunately losing their rear wings, which will contribute to them having to go and pit in order to get that rear wing replaced.
Major damage. It's not only the rear wing, that is something we can see, but physically the rear suspension taking a knock, the transmission, the differentials all taking a hit as well, and the drivers are going to have to be well aware of that. Jason Luck, however, back into pit lane. Now Jason Luck has been going in and out of the pits quite a few times during the course of this race, and will be doing it yet again, and missed his pit box by quite a mile as he has to get moved back.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just trying to chip away at some damage that he's had from the start, as he has been going around with a bit of a mashed up fender, as the team is still not happy with him, dropped him, pushed him back a bit in order to get him out of the box cleanly. So, yeah, now he needs to be cautious not to speed. I think he has sped, Stephen.
Yeah, that was...
No, he was speeding. Unfortunately, not having the pit limit. There we go. Stop go 30 again, or stop go who knows how long at Le Mans for not having the pit limit to engage. What happened?
That's his third stop that he's done. That's his third stop.
And it's his second stop go.
So,
it's his second one. Oh, team saying box, retire the car, or just pull over to the side of the car is doing, always trying to do. Nope, there we go. In the pits, unfortunately, from the team saying, that is it. DNF number 3 incoming for our runners. DNF number 2 for our GT3s. Absolutely heartbreaking.
Unfortunately, all getting taken away right at the end. Jeff LaRue, however, in tow of Kleinhunt. 0.8 of a second separated them before the second Mozon chicane. And it's back onto the power. LaRue up to temperature, in for a fight. Kleinhunt's battling to try and keep it all together. Last sector 3, Kleinhunt was up on his drive. This time, however, it is going to be LaRue onto the back, trying to figure out where he can get the last little bit of momentum needed to move forward. As LaRue hard on the anchors, trying to catch up to Kleinhunt, just not able to get the power on as much as he would like. A little bit unsteady on the throttle, but Dierveld Nell is also trying to make up some time. He's 4 seconds back, and don't count him out of the fight.
No, absolutely not. I've been keeping an eye on these three Ferraris at the front here. Jan Kleinans not having the best lap, as the gap the last time I looked between him and LaRue were about 3 seconds, and now it's back down to 1. So now it's going to be the question, who has opted to go faster in the dry? Now, if LaRue has been able to do that, brilliant. Maybe you made a bit of an extra change in the pits. Don't know if that's allowed, but I do know that sometimes you can make a bit of a change on the dive plane for the for the cars, or the rear wing. So it's going to be a bit something else. But yeah, Jan Kleinans now having his mirror full with a factory Ferrari. The defending champion, pretty much numbered car, not that there is. The defending champion numbered car for Le Mans from last year. So many of these drivers feeling that the number 50 car will be the lucky car for them. So we'll see what happens.
Always a tough fight to be had by all the drivers, trying to figure out what's going to be the next step for them and who is going to be able to gain the advantage come the end of this race. It's going to be a tough fight for all, and who's going to be able to pull their way from the brink here at the beautiful Mans as they try to keep the hammer down. LaRue getting right into the fight, wanting to put as much pressure as he can. Kleinans just managing to open up the gap, but not by much, as we do see the likes of Dennis Gillett now getting overtaken by the likes of our third place hypercar of Nell. That being said, however, as we do see Kleinans getting out of shape into turn 1 and turn 2, let's go through our GT3s, because it's Bernard Barkhuizen and Brandon Kruger, and running in third place, Mac Roth, who has now continued on the drive. He has really gained a lot of time, and especially on the pit stop. Roth did one single pit stop later than the rest and managed to move his way up through the order.
Yeah, well, Mac Roth did a phenomenal job last week also at Bahrain, getting onto the podium with that McLaren. Seems like we keep on saying the McLaren a bit short for the likes of its performance, but it's done an amazing job, our local American racing here with us in Raceface.Pro. So absolutely doing a phenomenal job, but trying to hunt down the gap between Brandon Kruger and Bernard Barkhuizen is going to be an immense task for that little McLaren. But he's doing a phenomenal job so far, and you never know, anything can happen up ahead. Mechanical failure, disconnect, anything can happen. Not saying it's going to happen, but you never know. Just keep the car going around, and he's guaranteed about a third place on the podium so far.
Touch wood. There should be a wooden table around you. Just.
I've got wood. I've got wood in front. A wooden table in front of me, Stephen. I've been gripping it since the start of the race.
You don't want to say mechanical problems, but take a look at this. Nell now closing up the gap, made it up to about 3 seconds to the likes of LaRue, as Kleinans starts to open a 2.6 second gap to the likes of LaRue. So Kleinans is really going and putting the hammer down to break away. And our hypercars now starting to open up the gaps yet again. No on-track battles.
Well, yeah, that little battle between the likes of Jan Kleinans and Jeff LaRue, bit short-lived, unfortunately, as the gap has grown again by a second over this lap. But it's still some time left. I believe there's about 20 odd minutes still left.
23 minutes left, and
23.
Take a look at this. Jacques Slater is about to be overtaken by our lead car. Johan Kleinans up on the inside, trying to get the pass done. Slater leaves a little bit of space on the table to try and allow Kleinans to get on by. LaRue has now gained it, and this is now fouled up badly. A bit of contact. That was a bit of contact as LaRue gets right into the back of Kleinans. Kleinans trying to figure out how can he get past Jacques Slater, who's not yielding at this point. He's continuing to drive. Blue flags waving. It is Kleinans finally through, but that has helped LaRue get into the fight and start getting on the attack as they make their way through the Porsche curves. LaRue had an opportunity, a little bit of damage to his nose, however, going into the back of Kleinans, but that just flipped the script and brought LaRue back into contention.
Yeah, no, that was a complete, Jeff LaRue saying, thank you very much, Kleinans. It's probably not speaking so nicely under that helmet, because remember, we do not have the same blue flag rules that apply in F1. Drivers do not have to immediately give way. They're just not allowed to defend. So that might be something that will be contested by the teams to the stewards. It will be something that will have to be settled in the steward room. So it's not how we want to see this lead battle unfolding, but it looks like Jan Kleinans has put it already aside and has already opened up the gap again by a full second.
Going and stretching the gap. Kleinans with 65% left in the battery. LaRue is sitting with 46%. Lowest, however, is actually Jacques Slater. 37% left in the battery. 21 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Trying to pick up some bit of charge to carry on the drive. But Kleinans opening up full taps to accelerate away from the likes of LaRue as they continue on their drive here. Round 3 of the Raceface.Pro, the Bar Ultimate.
Yeah, an absolutely great battle here from all the drivers, and well, some good close moments that caused some heart in throat action. But as I looked again, Mark van Rensburg into the pits again. I wonder, was he one of our late runners on wet tires? I'm trying to see what he has done here now. No, he was on dry tires, up on the jacks.
He was on drives, but unfortunately,
yeah,
I think he had a bit of damage on the car as well.
Yeah, team moving him a bit closer. In goes the fuel. Tires are going to be changed again. It has gone from bad to worse for the likes of our two front row starters. Chris Stills, unfortunately, with a disconnect, and Mark van Rensburg missing the first part of Dunlop chicane, and then also having a massive spin and dropping down the order. So Chris Stills finally getting another position on the likes of Mark van Rensburg, and he's hunting down now Jacques Slater. He unfortunately will still be a lap down, but he is clawing his way back into that top 5 as he probably set his sights on the next position, which is Arno Cross in 5th in Hypercars.
Well, taking a look, 3:31.9 set by Chris Stills as he tries to catch down Jacques Slater. 55 seconds split the two of them, as it is Jacques Slater about to get a face full of Peugeot. As he exits the Mozon, he will be looking in behind. The team will be radioing, saying, listen, we got to keep an eye out for this Peugeot, making up a bit of time. The Penske team will be shouting from the rooftops, telling Jacques Slater to push a little bit harder, to try and move a bit more up the road. 53 seconds as Stills is not hanging back. He's made up 2 seconds in the last little bit and now continues on the charge to gain a little bit of time. 19 minutes and 38 seconds remain of this race. So still lots of time out on the board. Kleinans and LaRue still keeping within roughly 2 seconds of one another. 3 retirements, however. Jason Luck, Begor Krobler, and Jean Verveers are out of the race, watching from the sidelines, but it is still lots to play for here at Raceface.Pro for Le Mans Ultimate Round 3. This is going to be the longer of our races this season, and as it's a triumphant week being here at Le Mans, the same race week as the real Le Mans that's ongoing starting this Saturday. Here at Raceface.Pro, we want to try and replicate that and duke out with the same battles. Having the latest of the updates also getting thrown into the fray does make things a little bit more interesting. Close racing, however, starting to break away as we do see Dennis Gillett trying to make up some time. He's a little bit off the pack of Jermaine, about 8 seconds separating them. Dennis hoping that he can just really put the hammer down, and Jermaine coming out of pit lane loses out to Dennis Gillett.
Yeah, a close moment there between the two drivers, but still not over yet, as a small mistake can still flip the script and turn the tide, as they always say that Le Mans chooses who wins and who doesn't. So unfortunately, yeah, it's a good close battle between the two of them here, but you mentioned earlier the drivers on the sidelines. They might be on the sidelines, Stephen, but I'm pretty sure they're still enjoying being around this phenomenal track and still being part of this amazing race. And you mentioned one of our longest race format that we're going to have in the season due to the length of the circuit, and it's quite fitting to have it at this phenomenal circuit. Good close action no matter what.
Very tough fighting. Daniel de Villiers parked in the pit box, and I think we may have another retirement for Daniel de Villiers out of the race, unfortunately, and that takes us with 4 of our GT3 cars out of the race, leaving Jeremiah the last of the runners to continue on the drive for the GT3s. But it's also going and showing it's all about carrying it to the end is becoming more and more difficult.
Yeah, it's not always as easy to say, well, try and push through and see the checkered flag, even though that's what many of these drivers try to do, and it's something that it's something that you have preached to many of the drivers that are racing at Raceface, and also preached to myself as a driver that's trying to see it to the very end, no matter what. But sometimes circumstances do happen and things can't always be fixed. Sometimes the car is just so damaged that you can't see it to the very end of the checkered, or things just happen. As I see another car spin.
Jason Farmer getting it all out of shape right in front of the hypercar. The Toyota, unfortunately, gets his tires turned around, and now this has got Julian in for the fight. Julian around the outside gains a position over Jason Farmer. One mistake for the Griffin Sim Racing team. Now Julian Brands moving his way up through the order and will be smiling on this. He's just got to keep it clean and keep it going, while Jason Farmer has to try and cool the tires down to be able to get back into the fight.
Yeah, that spin from the likes of Jason Farmer, unfortunately, did do a heat cycle pretty much through the tires, which will lead to it not being the most happiest of campers of cars out there, having to just really cool it down, meaning you have to be cautious on the brakes and cautious on acceleration, as you will have a bit less grip going in out of the corners. But yeah, I think that hypercar got a bit of a wake-up moment, as around Le Mans you do get into that bit of a trance state where you just flow and just get to the corner apex, and then suddenly, oh, here's a GT3 in front of you facing the wrong way, facing towards you instead of facing the other way. So it's a bit of a scare moment. That GTP driver is definitely awake now, as we see the likes of Jason Farmer in the background on my screen, just doing a bit of a weave to try and get some air into the core of the tires. But taking a look at Jeff LaRue, still hunting down the likes of Jan Kleinans, pumping over those curbs as he goes up for another lap around, hunting down the customer Ferrari of AF Corsa. But it looks like Jan Kleinans has wrapped this little race up in a bow so far, knock on wood again, as he has pulled a 5-second gap, and Dewald now is closing in on LaRue.
Now this is going to be an interesting one. Dewald Nell's been sitting, waiting in the sidelines, gained a bit of time, had to overtake the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, but it was on the exit of Chevrolet corner where the verses of Jeff LaRue did it through Chevrolet, got shoved on the outside. That cost him a bit of time. Nell, however, has been waiting, biding his time for the opportunity to get going. And this is going to be an interesting, because if you look at how much energy that has been stored up, we've got Nell sitting with 40%, LaRue sitting with 32%, and Kleinans still sitting over half of the battery at ready to go. Jacques Slater, however, into the box, now getting himself sorted. So Jacques Slater will be getting some work done to his Porsche and looking to get back out. That's going to help out Mark van Rensburg to move up through the order.
All of these little stops are playing into their hands of some of our GTPs or hypercars that have fallen a bit back now. But still, the lone Porsche, not having the greatest outing out there, but as well for our lone Peugeot. But things have turned around for most of these drivers so far. Not the results they wanted, but it's still good championship points that they are scoring out here tonight. Well,
it's going to be exciting runs till the very end. Currently leading out the top of our board is Johan Kleinans, with Jeff LaRue running in second place. Gewald Nell running in third, making a Ferrari 1-2-3 at current. We've got Lionel Clue with Jody Seidman trying to make his way past the GT3 field into turn 1. Arno Kraus running in 6th. 7th is Chris Stalls, followed by Jacques Slater, who's back out on track. Mark van Rensburg rounding out our pack for our hypercars. Looking at our GT3s, however, it's Bernard Barkhuizen with Brandon Kruger. Mac Roth running in 3rd place. Julian Brands running in 4th place with Jason Farmer. Jeremiah Valatham running in 6th. Dennis Gillett in 7th. 8th place is Daniel de Villiers, who will be the next of our retirements, unfortunately. Then we've got the likes of Johan Blutner, Jason Luck, Pego Grobler, and Jean Verveers, who are retirements out of this race.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, but Johan Blutner is a sneaky retirement that missed us, unfortunately. Jason Luck not parking the car. We saw that. That was the last one. But Johan Blichnout was one of the 3 top fighting BMWs and is not classified as DNF. That's one that might have slipped past my radar. You might have mentioned. I might have missed it.
That's definitely slipped past mine. Johan Blichnout having a bit of an issue, and wonder what on earth went on with the car that has taken him out of the running. Not quite what you want to have, especially into the later stages of the championship. But likes of Johan Blichnout, who was finding it out for major points for his side of the championship, now sitting on the sidelines, scratching his head, figuring what needs to be done to move his way up towards the end of this championship. Le Mans, definitely not the one that you want to drop and lose out on the results. As Blichnout, taking a look at our championship standings, was actually running in 2nd place in the standings. This is going to throw him out. Daniel de Villiers was running 3rd place with 22 points. Blichnout had 26, but Mac Roth has 19, and he's currently lying in 3rd place with all smiles and all gas.
Yeah, this is definitely going to count in favor of Mac Roth and not in the favor of de Villiers and Blichnout. Both of them are for sure going to be dropping out of their top 3 positions. So that's going to be pretty much what we saw with Bernard Barker hasn't happened last week. It's going to happen now to them. They're just going to drop out at like a stone in a lake. They're just going to drop down to the bottom, unfortunately. But that is the toughness that is behind Le Mans, as I see that Jacques Slater has gotten a drive-through. Our lone Porsche has somehow managed to snatch up a drive-through, probably for track limits, I assume.
Track limits exceeded, and that was coming out of going into Indianapolis. Ran out a little bit wide, and unfortunately, a drive-through running in as well. This is all going to play into the favor of Mark van Rensburg, who's making his way out of Indianapolis now. We'll start to see Jacques Slater up the road. He knows there's an opportunity to gain some time here. He's 20 seconds away, and with Jacques Slater doing a drive-through, Mark van Rensburg will snatch 8th place away and be able to open up enough of a gap. But how much has he got left in the tank? How far is he willing to push as they make their way through, up on the inside through Porsche curves? Got a little bit close. Mac Roth taking a deep breath as he sees one of the hypercars just trying to carve his way around. This is one thing with the GT3s. You've got to be committed to your racing line. You've got to make it work. And when you get the hypercars coming near you, you've got to stand firm of, this is my line. I need to take it. Otherwise, I'm going to understeer. You've got more aero. You've got more power. Figure it out. Leave me alone.
Yeah, absolutely. A brilliant call there from the likes of Mark van Rensburg there, deciding rather to stick behind the GT3 when it goes through the Porsche curves. And that's something that not many drivers would normally do. Rather, play it safe. You get them at the next part. You might lose a few chunks of time, a few fair chunks of time, but rather play it safe instead of wrecking your race right there and there, writing off the car at any point you might have scored.
Yeah, this is where you got to start using your head, try and figure it out. Kleinans 6.5 seconds ahead of LaRue. Nell 3 seconds back. Then our hypercars, Barkhazen 11.5 seconds away from Kruger. Macroth 97 seconds away from Kruger. Big gap starting to form here in the final 8 minutes and 40 seconds left of round 3 of our Raceface.Pro Le Mans Ultimate Championship. And this is to play for the points. Everyone wants to see the checker flag for Le Mans. Everyone wants to move forward. And for the debut championship of the Le Mans Ultimate, everyone looking to score those crucial points needed to move their way up through the order.
And absolutely, Stephen. Every point matters in a championship like this. And being able to say that you have won, well, it's not the end of the round yet, but have won the inaugural round championship for Le Mans Ultimate, it's a bragging right that will be able to stick with you until the end of time, pretty much. It's not really untested, but it's an unknown sim for many of our drivers, and it's something that they're also learning as they are going through this entire championship.
Well, Julian Brains coming out of pit lane, he just done another stop as well. That's going and taking a bit of time out of him, and he's actually done 2 stops during the course of this race. So Julian, not having an easy time out there, will need to try and figure out how he can get the drive back into. He's currently running 5th, but now 35 seconds off the back of Jason Farmer due to that pit stop. That's taken a bit of time out underneath him as he tries to push his way forward.
Now it's also a question of who is going, what will be able to make up the time, who still needs to stop in front of him, as you just see a bit of a graveyard of bollards going into the running for Tete Rouge. But yeah, no, absolutely a difficult race for most of our drivers out here tonight, Stephen, with unforeseen crashes, the dash of rain coming in there also, and just not being familiar with how the cars would react around the circuit. So it's something that most of these drivers are going to take note, the teams are going to take note, and will carry with them forward for any remaining rounds.
Yeah, just so much work needed. Chris Stoll's coming out of pit lane as well, as he's made his drive through the pit lane. That's going to be an interesting call. Wonder why the team deciding maybe just not enough fuel left back in the car, do a little bit of a top up and get it back out on circuit. But now loses out to Arno Kraus, losing more time to Arno Kraus, unfortunately. Not quite the race he wanted to have, and seems like miscalculations coming into play. 2.9 seconds off the back of LaRue is Diervald Nel. Slowly but surely been chipping away, trying to make up some time, getting past our McLarens of likes of Jason Farmer. Aims up the road with LaRue just ahead of him, and it's going to be an outright charge between these two. 2.9 seconds. We've seen Diervald Nel quite quick on his charge up through the order, but let's see how he's going to be able to launch his way through. That being said, taking a look at the lap times, and so far, still the strongest lap times out there has to go Chris Stalls with a 328.065, Mark van Rensburg at 328.3, and likes of Johan Kleinans at 328.9, as those are the quickest lap times running between our hypercars. Between our GT3s, well, Bernard Barkhuizen 1.5 seconds faster than the rest of the field. A 4-minute 1.102. Closest to him, Brandon Kruger with a 4:02.8 on his best lap. And that really tells the difference in pace of who's managing to find that rhythm here at Le Mans, but still so much time for drivers to make up their way through. We are getting reports, however, that Chris Stalls is getting report back from the pit crew that he needs to push harder. They want to keep going and try and break into the 325s here at Le Mans, especially in the later stages. So going to be swapping out his tires. We're going to see if we can take a look at that, because it's a very crucial thing if they want to try and push that a little bit harder. All currently on the soft tires. Stalls is on the soft as well, and trying to get that little bit more of a run up through the order. 4 minutes and 28 seconds, however. Chris Stalls is going to be having to really work hard with that Peugeot. One, to generate heat into the tires. That's going to be the first lap. And the second lap is going to have to be all gas, no brakes, to try and carry the momentum through.
Yeah, and absolutely, Stephen, but you also have to be careful of any track limits as the run into Indianapolis there, the small little kink to the right did take a bit or more on the outside to open up the corner. It can be a bit risky, as you am aware that drivers can be penalized there, so depending on how our race director feels regarding that. But I think we can also say that if it wasn't for some of the mechanical issues that Chris Stalls experienced at the beginning of this race, this would have been probably a massive French party, taking the car and just running away with it due to the lap times that he's setting now. So I think it would have been French glee if he would have won, but unfortunately he might end up with some French heartbreak from not being able to win this race. But he has proven that the Peugeot is not a car to sleep on if set up correctly, as he dives into the pits now to probably perform his last stop, funny enough.
This is
kind of curious though.
This is a very unusual stop for
no
him.
Penalty. Yeah, there's no penalty, no nothing, so kind of curious to see what's going to happen. But yeah, maybe trying to go faster, getting on new fresh of tires and getting off fuel and just punching the gas.
Not quite sure about
being moved back a bit.
This is going to be his third going fourth stop. Mark van Rensburg got 3, Slater's got 2, likes of Brains. And that is a very quick pit stop for likes of Souls. That is
Was that
just,
splashing dash? What's
that-
fuel energy looking like there, Steve?
that was fuel to get in the car. We're going to take a look at what his energy is when he gets back out onto circuit. I don't think it's going to be enough. 16% and lost out of position to Mark van Rensburg. So
And stop go for Chris Stolz, speeding in the pit lane. It has gone from bad to worse out here, ladies and gentlemen. From first to last, amazing fight back. Gone to get the final bit of fuel needed for this race, and gets off the limiter too early. That gives him a stop-go, not what he wanted to do.
a stop-go, and that's going to drop him in the clutches towards Jacques Slater. Crystals has officially shot himself in the foot, and at this point will be finishing in 9th place, as there's only 1 minute 40 to go. We are seeing LaRue, 9% left on the battery, doing everything he can to keep away from Dierwold Nel, who's trying everything he can to close up that gap at a rate of knots. Dierwold Nel looking for second place, and he's 1.4 seconds away from it as they dive past the likes of Mac Roth. Nel staring at the back of LaRue's car, trying to figure out where he can make up the little bit of time. He knows that he's got the run on him. Final lap, however, for our drivers as Clay Nuntz will start his final lap, but second place of the Hypercars is separated by 1.2 seconds. And Chris Stolz, who's been leader of the pack from the more ultimate side, unfortunately going and making crucial mistakes. But now it is going to be interesting. LaRue can't get away from Nel. They are down to a second, and it is all out going. LaRue sitting on 6% battery, Nel with 14. He has got the run on him to try and make this work. LaRue holding on to second place has to be critical on where he is going to deploy that energy. Where can he get on the power, and where can it be useful for him? Charging down the main straight they go. Dierwold Nel now under a second, utilizing the slipstream. They do see the McLarens up ahead of likes of Gillett and Vitham, who will be going and fighting it out. It is going to be non-stop action. Nel getting a little bit wide. LaRue not able to get the drive as he launch their way out into the slipstream they go. LaRue hoping he has just enough in the tank to hold the second place. Nel will be closing as they go right past our GT3s. It is going to be an all-right chase for the likes of Dierwold Nel to kick Jeff LaRue off that second place. Late on the brakes, getting very squirrely under braking, trying to catch the nose of the Ferrari as prancing around, dancing left, right, and center. Dierwold Nel, however, waiting for his perfect opportunity to go and strike as they come down the Mozon chicane. LaRue up on the inside of our GT3. It looks like it's going to be Dierwold Nel to follow suit. He doesn't want to wait for the opportunity to come to him. He wants to force it open. Late on the brakes.
Very, very brave there on putting the power down in order to get the run out of the corner. 6/10 is the gap between the two of them. Now it's a long bit of rundown into the Indianapolis. Who's going to be the best on the brakes? Who's going to be able to get the car slowed down fast enough and accelerate up to racing speed again at the exit of Ornage as we go into the middle part of this long back running here? Who's going to be the best? Hard on the brakes into the right kick. Hard on the brakes again into Indianapolis. Oh, closing the gap ever so slightly is now. And hard on the brakes again for Ornage. Is he going to sell a dummy? He's going to make a look for it. Nope. Tries best. Slows down. Oh, LaRue parking it. Bit of a wide run. Nel takes the opportunity and sneaks right on by Dierwold Nel. Brilliant move there on Jeff LaRue. Takes second place in the dying minutes or dying seconds of this race.
And this is it. Dierwold Nel waited for his opportunity and holds second place. Coming across the line, however, first place in the customer Ferrari, the 499, the 83. It is Johan Kleinans who will take the victory here at Le Mans for round 3 of the Raceface.Pro Raceface.Pro Le Mans Ultimate Championship Season 1. And what a run for the hypercar driver. Johan Kleinans takes the checkered at Le Mans. Second place.
Absolutely brilliant racing. Here comes second place. Dewald now across the line. It will be glee for the Italians, heartbreak for the French of what could have been absolutely brilliant racing. But I do think that little bit of contact at Ornage might be a bit settled in the stewarding room. But I do think Jetheru might have gone a bit low on energy there, so I had to save a bit and said, okay, I can't do enough anymore, guys. I have to get this car across the line. I will need to get let the Dewald now through. It is. We take third and we go from there. But still, a brilliant battle between the two, a brilliant drive that the two have shared, and just strategy trumping the best there for now.
Well, Bernard Barkhuizen continuing his drive. Kruger 9 seconds back from
drive through for Kruger. On the final lap, drive through for Brandon Kruger, but that is still second place secured for Brandon Kruger as Mac Roth has crossed the line, securing third for the class in GT3s, but Brandon Kruger getting a drive through on the final lap.
Oh man, that is taken him out of the fight completely with Bernard Barkhuizen. Even if Bernard Barkhuizen runs out of fuel, that is it, done and dusted. Ross will take third on the podium. Jason Farmer locking down fourth with Julian Brains, Dennis Gillett, Jeremiah Vitham, with unfortunate DNFs being the likes of Daniel De Villiers, Johan Blucknote, Jason Luck, Bego Krobler, and Jean Verveers. But what a race of note. Some great racing to the end. Drivers having to push that a little bit harder, figuring out what's going to work out for them, how far are they willing to go, fuel, energy, all that coming into strategy, especially for such a long race here at Le Mans. And definitely one that no one will forget about. Jody Seidman finishing in the top 5 of our hypercars will be happy with his run. Barkhuizen, Kruger, Roth, Farmer, and Brains will be rounding out our top 5 in the GT3s, however. So great to see, but always tough luck for many that just weren't able to get it to the line.
No, unfortunately, bad luck for our retirees there, and heartbreaking moments for the likes of Chris Stalls and Brandon Kruger getting penalized right on the dying stages of this lap, of this race there. But apparently, Chris Stalls, from what the team says, he was bored and wanted to test something, so that's why I went into the pits again. Of course, always wanted to test some stuff. Hats off for that, but still a great drive from our lone Peugeot. But as you take a look at Bernard Barkhuizen going into the Ford chicane for the final time and getting the last flick of left-right before crossing the line as he claims victory in the GT3 class here at Le Mans for the third round of the Raceface Le Mans Ultimate Championship.
Some great running had by all. Some stunning racing had by many. But that does bring us to the end of the run. And congratulations to all our drivers on a stellar victory here at Le Mans. And that being said, wow, oh wow. Cameron, I mean, taking a look at some of the victories here, some of the battles that we've got, your thoughts on the entirety of this race?
Well, what more can I say, Stephen, except absolutely fantastic racing. He had everything I wanted and more in the race tonight. Some close battles, some strategic battles. Yes, they were heartbreak. They were triumphs. I'm pretty sure most of these drivers who had a good qualifying were saying, yes, we can finally get a good run. We can prove some stuff and show them that we can do some good. And unfortunately, not playing into their hands with the weather, also having a hand in who's going to determining who's going to win this race. But it's been some good racing here, some close battles right to the very end, and that is just absolutely phenomenal.
Now, some great racing, some great moving forward. Drivers ultimately trying to figure out what's going to be the right idea for them, and everyone having to think that a little bit more into the race. I mean, these are always critical moments that we tend to talk about in the championship of moving forward. And Le Mans, once again, bringing some of the best racing action to the fight. Who would have gone and seen that the hypercars came down to the final lap and lost 6 corners to separate our second and third at the end?
It's not something that one would normally say. It's something that's out of a fairy tale, pretty much. It's we almost had a reenactment of what I said earlier about of Toyota just running out of fuel, but this time it would be a Ferrari on Ferrari battle. But some really great driving. I never would have thought that in the dying moments we would have that battle. So it's something. My voice is completely, almost not completely gone, just pretty much injured from all of the excitement that we had here tonight. And it might also be from the bit of the weather that we've been experiencing. But some absolutely phenomenal driving. And yeah, I can't wait to see. But it's going to have a massive impact on our championships. Positions are going to change, going to tumble down the order. So it's not, in terms of our hypercars, we do not have a driver who has their hand firmly on that championship trophy. Anybody can still take it from them, no matter where you are, as we still have some rounds left in this championship.
Well, it's also for our GT3s that have had a difficult run, seeing who's been able to move up through the order, who's been the drivers to really stand above all. That being said, however, we do have a couple of drivers to come and do an interview with us, give us a bit of an understanding of the race and give us a bit of a thought of what they got to experience around Circuit Les Arts. So with that being said, let's bring in a couple of our drivers to come and have a chat to us to give us their sense of what happened out there, starting with our GT3s. Let's bring in third place Mac Roth into the commentary box. Mac Roth, welcome to the commentary box. Glad to have you, and what a race. Third place for the McLaren. How are you feeling?
I can't believe it. I missed qualifying, missed driver meeting, missed practice, didn't have so I get on the grid and my wiper button is just not bound. So I can't see anything. I'm all the way in last, and then I'm trying to slow down to stop, to like bind it really quick and get some drive-through penalty. So if I was in last already, now I'm like 30 seconds down, and then just saw I was gaining everyone, kept it on the wall a few times, and somehow survived to the end.
Well, Mac, I mean, this has been a race of note. Racing around the mob, what was the sense? I mean, this is the first time Raceface.Pro in an official championship ever's raced around the mob. You got to experience it. Just give us a sense of what it is to be around the circuit in the wet conditions, and for those that are sitting at home unsure of what it means to be here.
It's scary. Almost lost it a couple of times, but managed to slam on the brakes and have ABS kick in to save me. Hit the wall a little bit, which, saw the car too much drag, decided to take some aero off and really helped on the straights.
Some stellar driving. That being said, however, a massive well done. Cameron Bastos, any thoughts from your side to Mac, who has just done a stellar job to put himself up in third place?
Well, you mentioned, Steve, an absolutely stellar job there from you, Mac. You had not the best of start to this race, and you still managed to pull a podium. That just shows that consistency and just patience always favors the bold. So well done, congratulations, and go celebrate with the team. A hard-fought podium for the likes of Le Mans. Not an easy track to really drive, so well done, and thank you for making us McLaren fanboys very, very proud.
Thank you, guys.
Mac, before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you want to do to all the partners here at Raceface.Pro, to the fans, to the drivers, to the teams? I mean, the floor is yours. You are walking home with some of the silverware.
I mean, that's why I say shout out to McLaren for surviving that. That's about it.
True. True words. Wise words have never been spoken.
Thank you very much, Mac Roth, for coming and having a chat to us, and hearing that just not able to engage the windscreen wipers. That being said, second place of our GT3s has to be brought in, because what a run for the likes of Kruger, having that race to the end. And I mean, this has been some wild racing, that being said. So let's bring in the likes of Brandon Kruger into the commentary box. Brandon Kruger, welcome to the commentary box. Well done, taking second place, and a bit of a heart and mouth situation for the final lap.
Thank you, Stephen. It was a heart and mouth moment a few times there, unfortunately. I had so many snaps. There was this one moment in the Porsche, the curves, that had me have a mini heart attack mid-race. I thought my race was going to be over with that snap that I received. So yeah, it was a very tricky race all round. Unfortunately, with the drive-through on the last lap, it doesn't affect my position, but yeah, I was just pushing and trying to bring that gap down. I unfortunately With the wet weather, I was like, oh, let me up the wing a little bit, and unfortunately, I just played it way too safe. Obviously, the downforce hindered me so much in the straights that I just kept on losing out to Barkhuizen. So luckily, with the pit stop, I think if it was a standard 40-minute race, I would have finished way behind. But luckily, with the pit stop, I could adjust through a wing. And yeah, and tried to claw back, but unfortunately, just inevitably, it did not work out. But what was a fun race overall. Barkhuizen, you drove beautifully, you didn't make a mistake one time. But yeah, it was awesome.
That being said, I'm going to hand over the reins to Cameron Bastos, who's got a few questions on his notepad that I can see.
Well, you absolutely mentioned there, and you actually answered one of the questions there regarding the wing setup. One of the questions that were going around the paddock earlier tonight was today it was just how much were the setups going to be affected regarding this update that's come out? How much were you thrown? Were you thrown out of where you were comfortable with? How much were the setups changed with everything that's gone to happen with these last-minute hot fixes and updates that's graced our tables?
So with quali, I went quite neutral, so I was like zero wing, and it worked out well. Unfortunately, I disconnected from quali and lost my position, but like by the time we got to the Milson Straight, I was already on Notes and Barkhuizen's asses, so it didn't matter too much there. I feel that it made quite a big difference having when I switched from a neutral setup to a high downforce setup for the race because of the rain. I felt like it made a massive difference in the corners, like just getting that drive out. But unfortunately, just because of all the long straights, you just will eventually lose out, and yeah, it was just unfortunate. So it was comfortable in the rain. I think I should have not gone as conservative as I should have. It cost me a lot. Like the moment it went dry, I was just understeering, and you could see I was bleeding time to Barkhuizen. So yeah, no. I see the setups didn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, if you go from one of the paid setups, I just slapped on 2-wing and the car was fine. Obviously, the cars are a lot slower. Like Barkhuizen and I, we were usually 5-8 tenths off the pro times. Now we were like a complete 10 seconds, So it's definitely a step down. But on the other hand, our tires are lasting longer. We don't have this ridiculous slip angle anymore. So more realistic, I'd say, for sure.
So a bit of a learning curve as you are driving within this very short time that you guys had in terms of mastering the new updates and stuff. But yeah, very much you pretty much answered all the questions from my notepad here. Is there anything that you want to say out to the fans, your team, any supporters out there, and everybody out there in the grandstands?
I think the people in the grandstand should join us. The track, it's a big track, guys. We got so lonely. I was in my own bubble. Like obviously when I went onto the dries, there was more urgency. But yeah, like after the first 20 minutes, it was just lonely out there, guys. So please join us. Let's get like an 80 car grid going for endurance. It'll be wonderful. But yeah, keen to see what Le Mans Ultimate brings for us. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the view.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brandon Kruger, giving out a bit of an invitation to our supporters there in the grandstand. Thank you for a very good race there. And as we bring in our third place up a Hypercars, as we do not have our winner of the GT3s, as we bring in the Jeff LaRue from our Hypercars class in here. Jeff, welcome to the commentary box. Well done on a hard-fought battle there, right till the very end there. And yeah, tell us about your race, how to experience Le Mans and the Ferrari around this iconic circuit.
Hey Cameron, how's it going, bud?
Good. I'm nice and cozy, didn't have to go racing the wet.
It was quite interesting. The qualifying was a bit of a tough one. I messed up my actual run, so I started off in whatever it was, 6, I think. And then I knew it's wet, so the quali is not going to be such an important thing. So I just took it easy in the beginning, and I knew the tires in the dry is extremely slippery when you start the race with these cars. So in the wet, I was expecting it, you know what I mean? So I just took it easy, and then I saw a couple of guys go off, and then I was first for a bit, and I just tried to keep up the pace. Realized I didn't actually have enough fuel in the car, so I had to fuel save here and there, and I just took what I could at the end.
Well, you mentioned that earlier, the fuel saving that you have done, which probably answers the next question of what happened in that final bit of staging, well, the final few minutes of last lap, where you just where the team just telling you on the radio, okay, listen, we tried as much, but we can't hold on to second position. Just let Nell through. It's much important to finish the race instead of doing a DNF. What was the final communications going on there in that last bit of last 6 corners of the race?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I was calculating throughout the last few laps. I was checking, okay, cool, the fuel. And then I saw, okay, I'm starting the last lap on 0.8. So I knew either I'm going to have to slack in the beginning or slack at the end. And then I had to let Nal through either way. So when I came out that corner, I gave it a bit of gears, and the ass came out, and I let him pass. And then I literally just feathered it all the way back, and then luckily I finished. So that was quite cool. But it was quite nerve-wracking because the Moser was disconnecting quite randomly throughout the week. I was just driving for 20 minutes and the base would disconnect. So I got a new USB cable today and all that stuff. And it seemed like it stuck through today. Yeah. So it was actually an awesome race. Shot, guys.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Unfortunately, bad luck regarding the Moser. It's something that bugs all our Moser users. But glad to got it sorted. Not the week getting sorted or starting off as you wanted with this race. But now, I'm going to hand you over to my co-commentator, Mr. Steven Koenig, who has some questions from his side.
Hey, Steven, how's it?
Good, and you, Jeff? I've got to say, I mean, let's talk about wet weather racing, hypercar, cold tires. Taking a look at it, you went and qualified in the dry. What went through your mind when suddenly the track is soaking wet?
I knew I was just going to shit myself. Just put it that way. I mean, in the dry, if the start of the race is so slippery, imagine in the wet. It's an ice rink, dude. It's seriously. So, I mean, I did put my wing up a bit, so I had a lot more downforce than normal. To help me in the wet because I knew it's going to be slippy slidey. So I just took it easy and feathered it, really. And then as the track got drier and drier, I was like, wow, I can actually brake here now. And I just took it bit by bit like that.
Well, some great racing there. Before we let you go and enjoy that third place, anything you want to say to all the sponsors here at Raceface.Pro, to the drivers, the teams, and most importantly, the petrol heads out there on the virtual grandstands that were cheering you on?
Yes, I just want to say thanks to Raceface. I really appreciate setting up these events. The LMU thing is a new test thing, and it seems to be quite awesome. I'm quite new in the whole ACC vibe and going into the LMU thing. I just basically started in ACC because I've been always in AC. So to jump again into LMU, it actually feels quite nice in LMU, and yeah, I just want to say hazard to all my GSRT boys as well. Farmer as well. Jason Farmer. He was racing in the GT3s. I think he got a nice P4 there as well. He's also took my advice and started doing the LMU and jump into the Raceface service. And we're both enjoying it. And we appreciate what you guys do for the community. It's awesome.
Absolutely awesome. Well done. And well done to the whole Griffin Sim Racing team on getting you guys in and out. Thank you very much, Mr. LaRue.
Thanks.
That being said, we have got LaRue out. It's going to be a proper run. And we are going to now bring in second place, and I know that you are quite excited about this one, Devil Nell, to come and have a chat to us. Devil Nell, welcome to the commentary box, and my word, what a nail biter of an end. How are you feeling?
What nail biter? It was fine. I'm joking. It was quite interesting. It was quite good chasing Jeff. He was actually, I didn't know it at the time, but he just told me he had to fuel save at the end anyway because he was running out because he was pushing too hard, and I had no idea, so I was just pushing like hell as well.
Now take us through that moment when you're starting to see the time's running out on the board, you're getting closer and closer. What was running through your head? What was the communication coming from the team? Were they telling you to push? Were you just saying radio silence, you got to keep the head down? I mean, take us through that.
When it got to 1.9 seconds, I like kind of sniffed blood, and then I just kept quiet, and everybody was talking around me, and I was just like in the zone, and I was trying, nailing every apex. And then when he spun, I actually felt sorry for him because he was driving such a good race, but then afterwards, when he told me he was running out of fuel, I didn't feel so bad for him because he was going to let me pass anyway. But it was quite fun because the previous 2 races I was kind of in my own space. Nobody was near me. I wasn't catching anyone. Nobody was catching me. So I really enjoyed this, and I really liked that the race was longer because it opens up a lot of strategic elements which you don't get in a 40-minute. So I really, really enjoyed it. It was really good.
Well,
but bad luck for Chris as well because he had a disconnect as far as I understand. But he was gonna probably finish ahead of me. So, but at least I broke my streak of P3s.
That's it. You finally got to break it. And that being said, another person that is quite familiar with the 499, Cameron Bastos. I know that you've got a few things that you want to say to Deal.Nell that had us both standing on edge.
Yeah, well, you gave us a few heart attack there, especially in the last minutes of the race as you were hunting down the likes of LaRue. But also, yeah, the familiarity with the 499 might be a bit questionable from my side, Steve. Only did a few laps in to get to grips with it, but the 499 seems to be a car that's around a bit more catered for the circuit. Do you think, from your side, Devil, that if Christos didn't have his bad luck with the disconnect, that the Peugeot might have put the Ferraris in its place?
Yeah, definitely. He would have at least. I mean, I think Jean may have had a chance, but I mean, he was just going to pull away from me, and I was ready for that. It was actually strange because I was right behind him when he disconnected because he went into the gravel before that. So I was right behind him when he disconnected in the last left-hander of the S-Benz. And then I wasn't sure if he was going to pop up back up in front of me again, and then I was going to be unsighted because he was going to have all the spray all of a sudden. So, but then I saw he disconnected. But if he didn't disconnect, yeah, he probably would have won. But the other interesting thing, I don't know if you noticed, but Rhino actually caught us 3 at the front by about 10-12 seconds. So if he didn't, because he disconnected in just as the session switched to the race, he disconnected, so he had to start from the pits, and his pace was really good. So if he didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. So I feel sorry for him as well.
So the Ferrari is not having all the things really go there, all the luck going away in this. Yeah, hopefully that's.
Well, he's a Toyota.
Well, yeah, the Ferrari's not having all the luck with the Toyota and the Peugeot giving a bit of a threat to them. Hopefully this proceeds well into the real world one. But yeah, you mentioned that also there. But now, give us. I'm going to give you the floor and the mic. Well, actually, first now I'm going to hand you over to Steven here. If he no, Stephen already asked you questions.
Yeah.
Oh, so many, too many action tonight here. My brain's everywhere. But I'm gonna give you the floor. Gonna give you the mic. Give a shout out to anybody. We caught your spin, I believe. I believe we caught your spin.
Yeah.
So go back to our radio, our TV truck there. But yeah.
So basically, I loss of concentration. I just slammed on the brakes too hard, and then the rears locked up, and then I just smack. Luckily, I only had front damage, so it wasn't like I had like a bench steering wheel or anything, so it was alright. So it was quite lucky, actually.
Yeah, but a bit of luck coming in there for you. But yeah, gonna give you the floor. Anyone you want to give a shout out to? Our supporters, our great team members out there.
Just Opa Bartos. I hope he had a good birthday on the weekend. Yeah. Shout out to him, basically.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Devil, now for joining us. Congratulations on that second place and a hard, well-fought battle there for that second place. Go enjoy the victory with the team and enjoy a chalky milkshake, as Steven would there. Don't put ice in it, otherwise we might not be seeing you at the next track. But go out there and enjoy it, and well done on a phenomenal second place.
Thank you, and thank you for your work. And have a nice evening.
Devon now giving us a bit of insight there, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one person that's been waiting for this exact opportunity, the now leader of the Hypercars in the championship, the Delta Negative driver himself, that managed to go and keep consistent. Let's bring in Johan Kleinans. Mr. Kleinans, welcome to the commentary box. You finally have usurped the likes of Crystals in the championship and taken the victory, the first checkered flag here at Le Mans for an official championship held in Raceface. So many firsts have been done. How are you feeling?
Hi, good evening. Honestly, great. It's not necessarily the way I wanted to win against Chris in this split. He got a bit unlucky, but happy with the result. Happy with how I achieved it. I had a rough qualifying, but we'll ignore that. But yeah, no, happy overall.
Now, we've got to talk about the start of the race. It was a brawl between the Ferraris, and especially the conditions not conducive to great side-by-side racing. What was going through your head when you suddenly have your competitors on top of you, pit stops are around, plus having the spray getting kicked up continuously as you battled your way through around the Le Mans?
The spray was immense. Definitely worse than I expected. And starting from the back, you get all this water being kicked up by all the cars, but luckily I was able to get the advantage in some of the corners against people making mistakes. When I got to the back of Jeff and now was when it sort of started just consolidating. So I figured, let me just keep it safe, manage the tires. The attack's going to come to me essentially. So I just focused on not making mistakes, and you benefit so much from not locking, not overshooting corners, that I was just able to close the gap.
Well, going and getting ahead in the championship, and now looking forward to the next set of racing. Well, that being said, before I let you enjoy the celebration, have your words to the crowd, anything that Cameron Bastos, our resident hypercar driver, would like to say to you?
Well, not really any questions. Just pretty much a very well thought out race there in the front, Jan. Yeah, would have been amazing to see what the battle between yourself and Chris Stalls would have been, but then we got a battle almost until the very end between you and Jeff LaRue. So well done again on a well fought victory.
Thank you.
I think you might need to be on your toes for Chris Stalls, as that Peugeot is not a car that needs to be written off just yet. So, but once again, well done on a well fought victory, and keeping it nice and smooth to the very end. And anything you want to say for our amazing fans and people in the grandstands?
Thank you, Cameron. Look, you can never count out Chris. He's gonna come back swinging. Thanks to you guys for commentating. Thanks to the sponsors, Raceface, everyone on the sidelines cheering on. Chris for pushing us to go faster. And shout out to Vieti and Daniel for being sports. Happy. We keep going, and I'm happy I'm ahead in the championship.
Absolutely great news. Young Kleinans coming in and having a chat to us and putting in some great news for the Delta Negative team as he takes the championship. That being said, Cam, we have now come to the end of our show here at the beautiful Circuit Le Mans. We said farewell to Bahrain, we came to Le Mans, we get to have some fun, but now we look forward to round 4, Sebring, the concrete circuit, the track that can either make or break your race. It is one of the toughest circuits you can go around, purely because, well, there's no grip at the best of times right next to a swamp. Thoughts of this? Sebring, big one for many of our drivers, rather new to a lot of our drivers.
Yeah, Sebring, a race that both myself and you have done in another sim, and we both found it quite difficult, especially in the hypercar. It's concrete, as you mentioned. It's very rough. It's got new bits. It's got old bits. It's twisty. It's windy. It's got long straights. It's a bump of a way. So you have to be very, very careful there. And the drivers are going to have to find out another challenge. They thought Le Mans going to be difficult. Sebring is going to be even worse. But in other words, I look forward to the championship. But Steve, can't we stay a little bit longer at Le Mans? I mean, it's a beauty. It's a phenomenal track. Just go cruising down the Mulsanne straight. But no, it's heartbreaking for me to leave. I love the track, but the show must come to an end. But it's not the end just yet. But I'm looking forward for the championship, looking forward for Sebring, and seeing how the cars are going to react on that bumpy little circuit.
Well, that's it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got to say a massive thank you to all our drivers, teams, to our race fans out there in the virtual grandstand. You guys are legends. But also to our sponsors, Virtual Motorheads, SBR, Simulator Cave, and Rhino Utility joining out the boat to come and be a part of it. If you are interested in joining in some of the racing, do sign up at SimGrid for Raceface.Pro. Tomorrow night, we head over to ACC to have some racing fun there. We're looking forward to drivers battling around Suzuka. That being said, however, a little bit of a sneaky peek of what's to come here at Raceface.Pro. Well, there is 2 letters in the sim racing world, mainly in South Africa, that might be knocking on the door. I'll leave that to you guys to think about. Don't worry, it's not words, but 2 letters. What can that be? Time will tell of what it's going to be. But from myself, Stephen Koenig, and also my fantastic co-commentator, Cameron Bastos, here at the THD Productions, we'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And like always, we'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.